Adam Bakowski. Lisa Bamonte.
Here.
Gina Barrows.
Here.
Eric Rosides. Iris Cabrera. Phil Capernegro. Frank Carone.
Here.
Stephen Chesler.
Here.
Michael Chancelli. Michael. Teresa Cinciano. Stephanie Cuevas. Ronan Daly. Giovanni D'Amato.
Giovanni D'Amato here.
Thank you. Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur Deminovsky. Lloyd Payne. Julamanda Foster.
Here.
Crystal Garcia. Joe Goldstein. Joe Gross. David Helmick.
Here.
Sabrina Hope. Katie Denny Horowitz.
Here.
Sonia Iglesias here. Moses Inding. Robert Jeffrey. Monsina Kaminsky.
Here.
Corey Canton. Paul Kilterborn.
I'm here.
William Claswell.
Here.
Yolando. Marie.
Here.
Yolo. Trina McKeever.
Here.
Adam Myers. Sante Michelli.
Here.
Toby Moskowitz. Rabbi David Needleman. Karen Nieves. Mary Adamaric.
I'm here.
You. Janice Peterson. Bella Sable. Isaac Sofer. Del T.
Here.
William Vega.
Here.
Maria Viera. Simon Weiser.
Sonia, Iris Cabrera is here. Sorry.
Sonia, Bogdan Bachorovsky is connected. He just has a problem with his microphone. He's trying to fix it right now.
Karen Nieves is here.
Who
Sorry.
was that? Who else, honey? Who?
Corey Canton
Okay, thank you.
and Karen Nieves.
Thank you, guys.
Sonia, it's Eric Rosadas. I'm here.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Twenty-four members answered the call. It is 6:03. Thank you.
Sonia, you got
Sorry,
me?
I just jumped on. This is Adam Myers.
Thank you, Adam. It makes it 25. Yes, Iris, I got you, sweetie.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you,
Happy
Iris.
New Year.
Thank you, Sonia. First item on the agenda is the BQE interim repairs. Joanna Ketter.
Hi, this is Sally Stolberg. I'm going to be joining. Jonine won't be here tonight, unfortunately, but I'll be giving the presentation. We've got one member of our team who's not able to join at the moment, and we have, I believe Waskar's on, but we're waiting for Dawn Harrison. She's having some trouble with the link.
So you want us to come back to you and we'll go to the next item?
I can start without her. I really just want to make sure she gets in at some point. So if we get to the Q&A and there's a question that I need her for, we may need to come back to it. But I'm happy to start the presentation. I know Waskar from our outreach group is here as well. Waskar, if you'd want to hop on also.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Waskar Robles. I'm the Director of Community Affairs. Thank you very much for this invitation. Hopefully, we could answer questions and take whatever we don't have in our hands. We can come back and answer it later. Sally, it's going to give a very prepared presentation, and I hope that that we could answer what questions you guys may have.
Great, thanks, Oscar. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. Let me just make sure that I'm able to do that. Great, and you are able to see the presentation in presentation mode. Excellent,
Yes,
thank
Sally,
you.
we can see it.
Thanks, Oscar. It's always something, right? All right. So good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Sally Stolberg. It says Salome, but I go by Sally. And I'm a project engineer on the BQE project here at the Bridges Unit at New York City DOT. And tonight with me are my colleagues, Huascar Robles, Executive Director of Community Affairs for the Division of Bridges. I believe Rhonda Messer from the New York City DOT Brooklyn Borough Commissioner's Office will be joining, and we are waiting on Dawn Harrison, who will be joining. She is the Director of Design and Planning in the Division of Bridges at Design Build. Tonight's presentation will focus on upcoming critical repairs on the BQE Central. That portion is from Atlantic Avenue to Sand Street. And you might be familiar with the larger BQE Visioning project. All that information can be found at bqevision.com, but this is specifically for the upcoming work in 2023. New York City DOT is focused on keeping the BQE safe for everyone's use, and we are looking into two specific areas on the Queensbound roadway in the Triple Cantilever section, which is circled right here in the red in the Brooklyn Heights Dumbo area. While we don't anticipate specific detours or traffic impacts in your local community, we did want to share this information to encourage everyone to be aware of the upcoming closures and repairs. And we also want to encourage avoiding this area during these closures and using alternative transportation modes. And I'll be getting into all of those very quickly. The BQE from Atlantic Avenue to Sand Street is one of the most monitored structures in the city. Keeping the BQE safe and functional is a critical responsibility for New York City DOT, and this segment is monitored closely to ensure that people and goods can travel through Brooklyn. As you can see, there's a lot of text on the screen. I'm not going to go through every single point, but I will be posting this presentation in the chat so you can read through it at your leisure. But in addition to inspections done by City DOT, our partners at State DOT also do inspections, and City DOT has sensors installed in the roadway that gather data. We also have about 6 years worth of data along with more recent testing that provides information about the current condition of the structure. And with all of that information, we're able to see what needs the most urgent fixes to keep the corridor in use while this longer-term visioning conversation can continue. The specific locations that we'll be looking at and that were identified are span 4, which is near the bottom, this second to the bottom arrow. That's span 4, which is near Grace Court. And span 34, closer to the top, the topmost arrow, that's near Clark Street. And again, both of these are in the Brooklyn Heights area. This also includes the Clark Street fan plant, which is inside the BQE structure, and the Joralemon Street garage at the very bottom, which is accessible by local streets. Looking at it from another view, you'll be able to see that the work is only done on the Queensbound roadway, not to mention that Joralemon Street work as well, but Grace Court at the top in this orange box and Clark Street at the bottom with this orange box. It's a little bit difficult to see because it's gray, but the top layer of this triple cantilever is the promenade. Then the uppermost level of the roadway under the promenade is the Queensbound roadway. Below that is Staten Island bound, and below that for local traffic is Furman Street. The Clark Street fan plant, as I mentioned, is inside the BQE. It's a structure that houses the fans that move air through the subway, specifically the 2-3 line, and this is between the Clark Street stop and the Wall Street stop. And we are going to be taking advantage of the closures that we'll be doing to access inside the structure. This area will be accessible from the Queensbound roadway, and we will be able to go in and address the conditions inside, and you can see some of them here. The fan plant is an MTA facility, but we will not be affecting the operation of the subway during this time, and we'll be working on the BQE structure near MTA equipment, but not on MTA equipment, and we will be coordinating and have been coordinating with our partners at MTA. And finally, the Joralemon Street Garage. This photograph on the lower left, you can see here, this is a local street at Joralemon and Furman. The entrance is a garage. It goes very far back. The BQE is right here where my mouse is, and also above. So we will be accessing this during the same time we'll be doing closures for the spans 4 and 34 work. It will not be affecting any of the BQE traffic, and we just plan to do the work in conjunction. The work that will be completed at the 2 spans include removing deteriorated concrete and rebar, repairing and adding new concrete and rebar, as well as supplementing the rebar that is left in place. And because of the nature of the cantilever structure, the work needs to take place over all lanes of traffic and cannot be completed in a lane-by-lane method, which means that we are going to be doing and have been doing quite a bit of outreach along the corridor, because this will result in significant closures of the BQE. You can see another explainer of how the work is done here. We will need to chip out existing concrete where my mouse is under these green dots, replace it, add new concrete, supplement the existing rebar with more rebar, and replace the asphalt on top to make for a smooth riding surface. All of this work will take place over 3 weekends with prep work during overnight hours, and the first weekend is the most intense amount of work, followed by 2 more weekends with work and preparation in between. They will not be back-to-back weekend closures, however. And while the deck work is ongoing on the BQE roadway, as I previously discussed, the Clark Street fan plant will be accessible for crews to go inside, and you can see the highlighted red is the underdeck repairs that will take place inside the BQE. And this is the column and beam repairs, which you can also see highlighted in the photograph in yellow. We've worked to minimize the duration of the closures, but also have been mindful of how to complete the work without too much disruption. The prep work does need to be done in advance of the full span work, and it will take place in the nighttime hours and includes removal of deteriorated concrete and the addition of steel plates for support for the upcoming work. We would close 1 lane on the Queensbound, depending on which area we are working on. And occasionally, if we're doing work on Queensbound above the Staten Island roadway, you can see how the cantilever juts out. We may need to close a lane on Staten Island bound, but all of this would be overnight, and it's very similar to the ongoing work that we have been doing for maintenance work that's been happening at night regularly on the BQE in this area. The first weekend of work requires a full closure of the Queens-bound roadway and 1 lane of the Staten Island-bound roadway, with the closures happening from 2 a.m. Saturday to Monday 4 a.m., so either very late Friday night or very early Saturday morning, however you want to interpret that, into the very early hours of Monday. The reason for this number of lane closures is we would need to have a concrete board that goes across the Queens-bound lanes, and it needs time to cure. While the concrete is curing or hardening, it needs to be supported from underneath because it would be wet, it needs support, and that would require space from the Staten Island-bound roadway. After the concrete gains significant strength, it would be able to support itself, and the support from underneath could be removed and Staten Island-bound would be reopened. And I'm going to walk through in a moment what the closures look like and the mitigation strategies that we plan to implement. Following the first closure, there will be a preparation in between in advance of the next work. The second and third weekends will be less intensive than the first week and will only require closures of the Queens-bound lanes, meaning Staten Island will be open in all lanes. Because this work is done closer to the surface and is not as deep, the work is not as extensive. And again, the same hours of closures are permitted, Saturday 2 a.m. to Monday 4 a.m. So just to summarize, we would have prep work, and then the first weekend would be a complete shutdown of Queens-bound plus 1 lane of Staten Island-bound open. Then preparation work again, followed by a second weekend, again, probably not in conjunction. With Queens-bound only, the Staten Island-bound would be open. Then preparation work again, followed by a third weekend where Queens-bound is closed and Staten Island-bound is open. And I'm going to go through all of that very quickly in a minute. All of this work requires a significant amount of traffic enforcement agents and pedestrian managers, variable message boards, which are those large boards that you'll see that put up with changing messages on the roadway. And we would be encouraging the use of alternate traffic routes through coordination and traffic management apps like Google and Waze, who we will be working with. We'll have a single point of contact through this whole project who will be available via phone and email to address concerns during the duration of the work. And we'll also have a live person available on weekends to respond to concerns in real time during the weekend closures. We'll be encouraging alternate transportation modes like mass transit where possible, or rearranging delivery schedules so that vehicles are avoiding the area. This has been done successfully in the past with adequate advertising and making the point that this is not going to be a good weekend to be driving. But in spite of that, obviously there's a certain amount of travel that will need to happen and cannot be avoided. And for that reason, we've worked out an elaborate mapping and detour that I'll walk through next. We'll still have traffic and pedestrian managers to quickly direct the flow of people, and we will be monitoring the situation in real time. And because this is going to take place over a couple of weekends, we will update our strategies as needed based on what works and what doesn't work in the first round. So I'm going to get into the details about the closures and how we plan to detour traffic around the work zones. But before I do, I want to remind you that we'll be addressing questions at the end. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. And I will also be putting this presentation or a link to this presentation in the chat, as well as a link to the visioning process. So let me take a sip of water and we'll get into the specifics. So for the first weekend, when Staten Island bound is down to one lane, we will be closing the on-ramps from Tillery and Sand Street to reduce the amount of traffic so that it can flow on that one lane. So these red arrows are the closed on-ramps. The local traffic in Brooklyn Heights would be encouraged to take Furman Street, which would be set up as a 2-lane so that traffic can get to the Staten Island bound BQE past Atlantic quicker. And we'd also be encouraging people to use the Hugh Carey Tunnel to get into Lower Manhattan and avoid using the Manhattan and Brooklyn bridges. There are some local street changes related to transit that will be addressed. And we will be coordinating with transit about local bus stops that will need to be rerouted. The primary route for those that will be using the 2 ramps at Tillery and Sands would be to head down 3rd Avenue, which is this blue arrow. If you're coming off of the Manhattan Bridge, and that's more local traffic that comes off the Manhattan Bridge, that would be used, we would be using this MARC detour that uses Flatbush and 4th Avenue to go south. And if you're coming off the Brooklyn Bridge, you would be directed to use Furman Street to get onto the Staten Island bound BQE. And these are the 3 MARC detours that we plan on using for that first weekend closure only. This is just a zoomed in version of what we just saw. So you can get a better sense of the local changes for Staten Island bound closures. All of the on-ramps that will be closed are marked here. The last off-ramp in this area is York Street, and then there are 2 lanes headed to Staten Island bound roadway at Atlantic. So traffic that needs to come off the Staten Island bound will be entering Atlantic and at Columbia Street. Sorry, that's right where these green arrows are. For traffic to move, we'll be looking at Furman and closing the northbound lane and making both lanes southbound. This will require heavy pedestrian management in this area, especially given that Brooklyn Bridge Park is very nearby, and we will be providing agents in that area. And there'll also be some localized transit changes. So that was just for Staten Island bound, which is only the first weekend. But for all 3 weekends, there will be a full Queens-bound BQE closure from Atlantic Avenue to Sand Street, and I'll be going through those changes and detours now. Queens-bound closures, again, are for all 3 weekends. These are the on-ramps in the area that are going to be closed to prevent the number of vehicles that end up in this area and will have to get off again at Atlantic, so at the Prospect Expressway to the Manhattan Bridge exit ramp. There will also be, of course, local traffic in the area that will need to be managed with local street changes, and this will all be more finalized as we get closer to the date. And cars will be encouraged to take alternate routes well south of this area. They'll also be encouraged to use the Hugh Carey Tunnel. So these are just some more of the local changes. For those who end up at Atlantic Avenue, that existing traffic would be directed to the Queensbound roadway further north using Adams and Tillery. Our preference and more direct connection encourages drivers to take 3rd Avenue to get back onto the BQE at Tillery. And for those who have to get off the Prospect Expressway, they will be directed to take Hicks Street to Atlantic to get back onto the BQE at Tillery. And these are all the main detours for Queensbound during all 3 weekends. Last but not least, we want to keep freight off of our local streets, and they will be encouraged to use Linden Boulevard. These are some of the ramps that are closed and transit stops. We heard feedback from the Windsor Terrace community about this detour, and we've been exploring alternatives based on their feedback. So this is not necessarily finalized, but we will have a more finalized version of the detour as we get closer to the date. And overall, as we get closer to construction, we will be releasing more finalized detour plans. So to make sure that traffic is moving in Manhattan, because some of the traffic will be sent over the bridge, there will be some modifications to local streets with additional TEA presence to make sure that we can keep the Manhattan Bridge traffic flowing, the Manhattan traffic flowing. And we'll continue to be in touch as we have more information about the dates for these closures. We're currently in the first quarter of 2023, this final line here, and we'll be awarding the contract soon. In the future, we will be providing a more specific schedule based on our contractors' means and methods. And we've already provided them weekends that are blacked out, that we will not allow the work to occur. For example, Christmas, New Year's, any major traffic day, Thanksgiving, but also events that are local, like the New York City Marathon or the bike tour or something like Mother's Day. We're never allowed to do this on Mother's Day. Jonine always likes to remind us that Father's Day sometimes, but not Mother's Day. We'll have a more precise schedule in the future, and we will come back to you with those dates when we have them. But right now, we don't have the exact dates until we determine the schedule with our contractor. So again, we anticipate that the 3 weekend closures and overnight prep work will take place between March and October of this year. That's our construction season. And these weekends will be spread out over the construction season, but will not be back to back. Joralemon Street garage repairs can happen concurrently with the closures, and no additional closures are needed for that. And we'll share a more specific schedule in the future. We really appreciate your help in sharing any community communication networks or stakeholders that you feel would be important for us to connect with, especially because you guys are a little further north and we may not have been in touch with everyone that we need to yet, and we would love to hear feedback from you. So thank you so much for having us, and we will be happy to take questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I don't see any hands. Does anyone have any questions? Raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Nobody has any questions?
Excellent. Well,
that means you did a good job.
I think
Everybody understand.
Steve, I think Steve,
Yes.
you have a question, Steve? He has raising his hand. Steve,
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't see your hand. You have to put it in the participants list.
There we go. Yeah, I just had a question about going further down the line in terms of the considering other parts of the BQE, essentially the section that goes through North Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be I guess traffic repercussions for our neighborhood in terms of backup. Have you done modeling or predictions for what that will be? And then beyond that, just in terms of the total redesign of the highway, where the North Brooklyn section is.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that we don't anticipate any specific or significant detours or traffic impacts. If you'd like something more specific, we can definitely do that modeling and send it back to this group. So you have those numbers. We've definitely done that in the past. Let me write it down so that I remember to do it. As far as the larger visioning project goes, this is not quite related to that. Mostly this is to keep the BQE structure moving so that we do have the time to work on that visioning process. There are a lot of upcoming meetings though for the north part of the BQE Visioning, and they're on our website, which is bqevision.com. For some reason, I cannot access the chat, but bqevision.com, and I think it's /events, has all of those upcoming meetings as well as the meetings that have already happened. I think those PowerPoints are also there. But this is definitely a separate effort from that.
You can
Separate
send it
but
to, you can
related.
send it to our, you can send it to our office and we'll send it out.
Okay, absolutely. I'll send that and a copy of the presentation as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions? If you got a question, put your hand in the chat. Put your hand up in the participants list, I'm sorry. No other questions? Eric?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So I think I missed it, but the Staten Island bound, the last exit during the construction would be Brooklyn Bridge. Is that right?
Let me pull that map up for you really quickly. Hold on. Oop, there we go. So the last exit that will be closed is Flushing Avenue, but we'll be kicking traffic off essentially to keep them off of this roadway. And I think actually the other map is a little better, the one right after this. 'Cause it's a little
Is there a
zoomed in.
reason? Is there a reason it's not cut off at Tillery?
I think it's just to keep as much traffic out of this
Right.
area as possible to encourage the detours.
Yeah, I mean, just
Because
because.
otherwise we had local traffic in this area.
Yeah, just because that Flushing exit is already a nightmare.
We will be having pedestrian and traffic agents throughout this corridor. If there's an area that you think specifically does need an agent, and if it's that Tillery exit, we can definitely look at adding one there.
But the Tillery exit is closed during
Right.
the construction, right? So that they would have to get off about 2 miles up at Flushing.
Let me see. Yeah, we're encouraging the exit here.
Yeah, that exit is a
Flushing.
nightmare.
It is going to be, I will say, it's not going to be super comfortable for driving. I think we fully own that this is going to be a tough traffic weekend, and we would encourage people to change their driving patterns over this weekend if possible, which we know it's obviously not possible for everybody, but that's also why we wanted to reach out to even kind of the communities that aren't directly here, because we know you will be driving.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get as much information out as possible to make this as painless as possible, but it obviously won't be 100% painless.
Mm-hmm. You might also want to, because that that Flushing exit is so bad, you might want to have additional traffic agents at Kent and on the south side of the BQE as well. Just that whole array is just a real nightmare that we've been complaining about for years now. And
yeah, I'll definitely bring that up when we go through where we'll have traffic agents. It's not a finalized plan quite yet until we deal with the contractor.
Okay, I mean, there's really not a lot I can. That was my biggest concern, I guess.
Sure.
And there's no real way around it. I'm on that section all the time, and I'm always afraid I'm going to fall into the park underneath. So, all right, well, that's it, I guess, for now. There's an off chance that I may have ask you to come to the transportation committee sometime in March, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we're definitely happy to come back when we have more information. But yeah, be in touch with us through either our borough commissioner's office or with Waskar from our outreach group.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. William Clydesdale?
Yeah, hello. I think it would be a good idea if you could cancel the tolls on the Battery Tunnel, Carry Tunnel, so people will use it. Otherwise, with the high tolls, people won't use it. I think it's a good detour to get people into Manhattan. If they want to go north on the BQE, they could use the FDR Drive, or even come back at the Williamsburg Bridge if they need to.
I don't know whose authority that's under. I don't believe it's ours. I don't know if that's possible, given the authority of the tunnel. But I think the best strategy overall is we're trying to really just discourage driving where possible, especially in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much for your presentation. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you. You too. Have a good night. Bye.
Likewise. NYC, the fire department. Bailey. NYC fire department.
Hi, you have Chief Roach, you have Chief Daly. Should also have Sandra Chanchez from our Community Affairs and Chief Michael Mays from our Hazmat Battalion on the call, on the meeting.
Thank you. You can begin.
Sandra, are you there?
Sure, yes, I am. I see all three of you nice and clearly now. I wanted to make sure we were in one accord. Thank you for this invitation, Brooklyn Community Board 1. But we understand that you had a few questions as relates to what response would be like at 315 Berry Street. So I'm not sure if you want to share the letter that we received, or if you have targeted and specific questions for us that we may be able to respond to.
Okay, anyone that have questions on this, put your hands up in the participants list. Chester, do you have anything that you
Yes,
want
this is a new hand that I have up. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate personnel from FDNY being here tonight, responding to our letter. I'm the chair of the Environmental Protection Committee, and the application for this special permit came through a joint meeting of our committee and Land Use Committee. And then as the application's been, I guess, revised, we were made abreast of revisions to the design, et cetera. And along the way, through both the original meeting and then beyond, the residents of 315 Berry continue to express, deep concern over, this proposal of installing this battery storage system on the roof of their building, where they've lived for many years. And what we understand is this is a unique proposal. It's a unique idea. The special permit is for, allowing installation of this system on a residential building where the zoning doesn't allow for that. And the question, well, the zoning, I guess, doesn't, allow for that because it's potentially incompatible. And so what comes to us is basically, the safety issue. We've just seen the, just the stories related to, lithium ion batteries igniting and causing fires, just small scale from e-bikes and other types of small devices causing, high quantity of fires in buildings. And, but this, the scale of this proposal, we're talking like 300,000 pounds, and just these massive units. And so I'd love to hear, I have a few questions, is just how do you handle, the unique situation of a battery, a lithium ion battery, a fire, that's experiencing thermal runaway. How do you just handle that in general? And then how would you potentially handle that for something large scale on the top of like a loft building where there are residents living? Thank you.
Sandra, do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, first of all, the e-bike batteries, these fires that are happening from these lithium-ion batteries, all the associated batteries, they are completely different compared to the energy storage system batteries that are going to be installed. The e-bike battery fires that are happening quite often, or a different type of battery, counterfeit, knockoff battery. They do not go to any sort of serious type of testings, or don't have to account for any kind of regulations. You can buy them on Amazon. The energy storage systems that do get approved, that there is a strict application process, evaluations and stuff. So each product that is presented to us before anything is even approved has to go through so many testing things, 9548 testing. The stuff's got to be 9540 approved, listed. The inverters are 1741 listed, 1973 listed, all UL and FPA standards they have to meet. So it's just not they just present something and we okay it and let it in. We are concerned about the civilians as well as our firefighters ourselves. So we just don't let them install anything. So they have to fill out numerous applications, site application, TM1, TM2 for the product itself, and they have to present to us the data, all the 9548 testing that it went through, that it meets certain criterias, certain amount of heat flux it gives off, and anything like that. And then the site they choose also has got to be approved, and that's when DOB gets involved and other agencies get involved, as opposed to an installation on a roof, other things that they have to make sure it has the proper requirements there, maybe proper drainage, maybe the NFPA 15 system is a sprinkler system, all of them. So there's already one installed on a roof in Queens. It's not, I don't know the size they're looking to propose to put on top of yours. Is a 12 megawatt hour system, I believe. The one on the apartment building in Jamaica, Queens, is Archer Green Apartments. That one's a smaller system. It's about half a megawatt hour, 570,000 kilowatt hours. That apartment has about 387 units. That's installed on the roof. But so again, we go there, we do familiarization drills with the local fire department, but they had to come and make sure this thing has battery management system, the thing's being monitored, it's hooked up to the fire alarm system. Everything is an application for them, and it's got to be approved. The fire suppressor system's got to be approved. Everything's got to be listed when I use the product. So again, 100% different than the e-bike fires you're seeing with the bikes, which is not being regulated at all. As opposed to dealing with a fire, like I said, these things are being monitored. So many redundant systems there that watch this thing, alarms, letting notifications early on. They all have to be some sort of fire suppression. Most of them have to be NFPA 15 sprinkler systems around there. So if our SOP would be, if there does happen to be something, it's all lithium ion batteries. It's water, water, water. Dry chem will put the incipient fire out, but water stops thermal runaway. So it just, the sprinkler system up there, these things have inert other fire suppressor systems, depending on the product and what they're looking to put up there, because there's different products up there. They have suppression systems also inside the batteries, sometimes in between the modules, in between cells, depending on the product that whoever they're deciding to put up there. So besides that, yeah, so if there's a fire on the roof, a lot of smoke, anything like that, it's going to go upward. So the only issue would probably be water. But again, they wouldn't install it unless DOB and everybody's met the requirements for the proper drainage for the building, for the type of sprinkler systems, how many were needed, and the gallons permitted. We require them to have fire department connections. So if we show up, we could supply the system. We require them to have energy e-stop buttons, manual shutoffs. That we require them to have a number on hand, SME available. So these things, like I said, we're not just letting them put in anything. We care about the safety of not even civilians, but our firefighters ourselves too. So totally different than e-bike fires and the quality of everything of the batteries. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you, for mentioning, which would be the obvious, is obviously we're protecting the civilians and the residents, but also the firefighters. Because
Steve,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Let me interrupt you. We have some speakers on this issue, so I think it would be advantageous for us to call the speakers so they can hear the speakers' concern at this point.
Okay.
Okay. I think that we'll get a better idea of how they feel about it, the people that live at 315 Barry. So Joanna, would you call the speakers from 315 Barry Street, please?
Sure. Chris Work. I do not see Mr. Quirk. The next speaker is Dana Kane.
Hi.
Dana,
how are
you're
you?
unmuted. Go ahead.
I'm so happy to be here to talk to the fire department. And thank you for appearing to ask for our questions. One of the main, the presentation you gave, water is a major problem because Mr. Shetta at the BSA said that if there was too much water on this roof, because of having to pour, because these batteries can burn and burn and burn, the weight of the water would collapse the roof. That is a big problem. So I don't, if these things didn't have thermal runway, if they were more predictable, then maybe we'd be feel more comfortable. But the fact that just sending water to put it out would collapse the roof. There's also access to the batteries from the street below for the fire department trucks. There's only one place where the fire department can get close on their trucks, and that's the south wall. The east wall is blocked off by an 8-foot wire fence. And then in the driveway there'll be a piece of equipment for microgrid will be in the driveway, so you can get back that way. The north side, if a truck was parked there, they'd be fairly far away from that fire. If they were at the front of the building, they'd be fairly far away. And like I say, they can only get in at the south side, and I don't think you can put two fire trucks together in the same next to each other because there's not enough space. So you'd have a problem getting actual water up to the roof, and then when the water gets there and it's too much, it can collapse it. And I think that this issue of the water collapsing the roof is something that should be addressed.
Okay, so let me just mention that we're not here to tell you that yeah, don't worry about it, put it in, or no, not put it in. That's not our decision. We don't look to do that. For anything that goes in, as long as it goes through the requirements and meets the thing, and final say will be BSA and DOB, all these other agencies involved, not the fire department. So we're not here to push this thing on you. We're just giving you our opinion on it,
Okay.
on the fire part of it. As a part of as part of the getting water up there, firing it as a fire. You have residential building. I'm sure you probably have a bulkhead to the roof. We require also that they have outlets at the roof level so we can stretch lines. So if it's out of the reach of ladders, that's really not an issue. We require that the NFPA 15 system is due to the 9548 testing they come back with, and they do an HMA on it. It has a mitigation analysis that tells us how many sprinkler heads they need to sufficiently suppress the fire and stuff like that. That is all required on their end. So, and then we also require them to have an FDC, a fire department connection that will be down below. So we just hook up to, as long as the fire hydrant's within 250 feet or 150 feet of the FDC, we hook up to the fire department connection and we supply the system. So not necessarily do we need to reach it or go up there. So finding it or putting it out is not going to be the issue. So again, if they come back and they do their testing and feel the amount of gallons per minute given off to put out a fire on this, the energy storage system can be properly drained throughout the building. That's not all call. That's what they make the whole call for. And a lot of these energy storage systems, everybody's figuring worst case scenario, catastrophic failures. A lot of them will also require they don't necessarily all burn themselves out. A lot of modules compartmentalized in there in the middle to eventually slow down or stop propagation. Or the thermal runaway goes from cell to cell. So in between modules, a lot of this part of this 9548 testing is done to make sure that once it gets approved, it only propagates so far and it eventually stops at a certain module. And all that stuff has to be presented to us in the data with the testing before we even approve this. So like I said, there's a lot of requirements met before this thing's even approved. And again, putting it and installing it, we're not advocating that. That's not our decision. That's up to if they meet the requirements, we'll see if and then it gets approved by all the agencies, then, you know, that's us. But we're not telling you, we're not here saying, no, put it in, it's safe, or no, put it in, it's not safe. That I'll just tell you from a firefighting point of view, and the requirements, the strict requirements that are met for these things.
Joanna, let me just say something. I would like to remind the speakers that you're still under the 2-minute speaker. So please try to frame your question and get it out in 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
I see Christopher Kirk, so I'm gonna unmute him. Christopher, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so 2 quick questions. One, the Fluence batteries that are going to go on the roof of this building potentially, according to Standard & Poor's Global Market Intelligence report in May of last year, they had 3 of them fail the last 3 years out of about 150 installations that they've made in total. That's a 2% failure rate. And these failures are catastrophic fires and/or explosions. So I guess my question is, despite the safety issues, these things are failing, and they're failing on a fairly regular basis. We've had 50 of these fires and explosions globally with these arrays. So is a 2% failure rate acceptable to people in the community, to the board, to the BSA, and to other affected people? I think that's not a great ratio, especially if you extend this out for 20 years. This is just on the past 3 years. If you extend it out for the 20-year life of the battery, you've got more like a 12% chance based on the current statistics of the Fluence cubes, despite their safety factors. I would also say that a lot of these batteries, it's not just the cells that fail, it's the safety systems themselves. The Monterey fire that just happened is an LFP, lithium iron phosphate, same kind of battery that's going to go on the roof here. And the cooling system actually heated the batteries up and caused thermal runaway. So these are issues I'm pretty concerned about. A lot of boosters are saying, well, the technology is going to get better and better and things like that. But as it sits now, things are not looking so good. There's a battery specialist, Michael Moe. He's worked with NASA, put lithium atom batteries into space and on Mars with NASA. He says, no system, no technology is perfect. Of the billions of lithium-ion battery cells now produced each year, thousands could have defects. Just statistically speaking, these cells are going to short inherently. So I wish everybody would take that into consideration. My second question has to do with basic arithmetic. What is it going to take to put out one of these fires? The BK Reader article that probably everybody saw last week, an FDNY spokesperson told the reporter that they would need 30 gallons of water, 30,000 gallons of water per hour to extinguish a fire of this proposed battery array in the roof, which is, again, 300,000 pounds of batteries alone, not including the other equipment. That comes out to about 1/10 of a gallon of water per pound of battery, around 13 ounces of water. A pound of batteries may be about the size of a softball. The runaway batteries burn at or near about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. What does that mean, putting a glass of water onto a softball-sized meteor of 12,000 degree Fahrenheit battery every hour? Is that going to be sufficient to put out the fire? Another estimate came from Chief Simon Resner, a colleague of yours at the February BSA meeting.
Okay, Chris, what is your question?
I'm coming to it. So the BSA said that they would be able to put 72,000 gallons of water onto a fire, and that would be just enough to complete the runoff, according to John Guth, the engineer that was hired by Microgrid to assess that. That's a quart of water per pound to cool a massive thermal runaway fire per hour. Is that going to be enough? We just had a Tesla fire in Pennsylvania 2 months ago. It took 12,000 gallons of water to put out a 1,000-pound battery. That's 12 gallons of water over the course of 2 hours, 6 gallons per hour. So that seems like a real world estimate. What are your actual estimates in terms of the amount of water it's going to take, the amount of time it's going to take to control thermal runaway on a 300,000-pound battery on the roof of 315 Berry Street? Thanks very much. Appreciate your patience.
Yeah, no problem. To me, I don't know how these people can actually answer that, because it's not necessarily that usually when you put water on a fire that's on thermal runaway, the individual cells are heating, they go to thermal runaway, they start propagating and exposing the surrounding cells, and then it keeps going. When you apply water, you're not stopping thermal runaway, but what you're trying to do is cool the adjacent cells and to avoid them from going into thermal runaway. So when they say, it's going to use it, I can't sit here and tell you that how much water I'm going to use to put out a fire in it, because there's some systems that a few can fail and you won't even know it, and the system can sufficiently work, and it'll be fine. And then I'm sure you'll have some that propagate and cascade into more and more of event. Well, then you would need more water. So when they tell you, well, it'll use this many gallons to put it out, is, to me, I don't know where they come up with that number. If they're giving you, if this whole thing was fully involved, and that's worst case scenario. Again, if they have those numbers, and as opposed to the Fluence Cube having their problems, again, I'm not defending it. Your stats are probably right, but I don't know how long ago that was where they're coming off those numbers with the fail rates, because like you even know, every few months, every year, the technology is getting better and better. And where do these things fail? New York City, we have stricter requirements for these things than they do everywhere else, and we're the ones that are holding them up from coming in here sooner. Our tech management and our fire prevention division, because we require more. We require extra the safety things. So maybe that can help answer your question.
The next speaker is Louise Belcourt. You're muted.
Yes, hang on. Am I muted?
Yes, unmuted,
Okay.
yes.
Thanks for hearing me. I guess I don't have a direct question, because I'm going to reiterate much of what Chris just said, but we live in the building, and if you have to put water to continuously put this out, let's just say, even if it's modestly on fire, it's going to take a lot of water. It's going to risk the roof falling on us, and it's also going to flood everyone's homes. We can't get renter's insurance. Our rights are completely gone by this being put on our roof. We'll lose our homes, which is something the landlord probably would be pleased about. We'll lose all our possessions. We have no insurance about this. It's a private company that is running this on the roof. So there's no way to go after anybody to get any compensation for what's happening. So we're just stuck like guinea pigs. It seems absolutely bizarre that this could be happening. We're taxpayers, we're paying rent, and we're just being abused. So I don't really have a question, I guess. I'm shocked that everyone's passing the buck here. You know, the fire department, well, they're not only concerned about safety, but they're not really concerned about the building. Well, the Department of Buildings is not really looking at anything either. And the BSA is handing it off to both of you guys and saying, well, it's not our problem. So it's all being passed around, and we're just stuck. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if it's being passed around. We already have approved these, and that we have the system that we're required to inspect, and we're responsible for certain things when these things are presented to be installed. DOB's in charge of certain things they're required, and BSA, because this is a zoning issue, I believe, and they're involved. Most of the time, I believe BSA probably wouldn't even be involved. It would just be the fire department, DOB. I think everybody says water. Again, if the engineers come and the testing shows that the roof is not sufficient enough to hold it, they can't have proper drainage, they can't have all of what's required, well, then I can tell from the fire department's point of view, we probably, then it doesn't pass certain requirements, then it doesn't get approved. But if they come up and they do require what's needed to present it, to say it's going to be safe, and if there's a fire, it can be handled without there being sufficient damage, then that's what it is. I don't think we're passing the buck. We just show it. It's up to the company and the people presenting and looking to install this to give us the data and prove to us that the thing's safe. It passes all these tests, and that the site they picked was approved, and that the proper drainage is approved. So so I don't think anybody's passing the buck. It's so they just need to present to us that they meet the requirements.
The next speaker is Elizabeth Ringo. Elizabeth, you're muted.
Things gonna go dead.
Hello?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to say that I appreciate your patience. I think that what Louise and Chris have brought up is very important, and I appreciate your position in the fire department. You're implying that things have been approved, and our concerns are that this project is indeed being pushed through by a private concern. They didn't work with the city. They cherry-picked a landlord who was willing to work with him. You know, this is all about, they're monetizing climate, the landlord's monetizing the building, and we're stuck. And I just feel that just saying it brass tacks like that, I mean, I might as well, because it's a very difficult thing watching. You know, I've lived in the building for 20 years and the conditions are bad. So my question, I guess, to put it in the form of a question to the community board and to members of the fire department who have, you know, chosen to attend, you're saying things are meeting requirements. Well, what is determining the requirements in terms of a building like this when you have a large residential building? You say there's been one that's been done before. I can't imagine that the building, it would have been done with a building that's in the condition that this building is in. The thing about the massive amounts of water, I do know that of a case where a town refused to give tax abatements. And I don't know what kind of a tax deal microgrid gets from volunteering to improve the environment through using our roof. But it's the town refused it on the basis that the fire would have to burn out and it would create a huge environmental hazard. This fire, no matter how much water you threw on it, creates environmental chaos and displaces more than the people in this building. This is coming down to this whole section, you know, our little corner. It's not just our building, it is the city park next to it. It's the fact that, you know, their water system has been loaded up with styrofoam from the work that's being done in the building right now to prepare for all of this.
Please summarize, Ms. Wrigley.
I'm summarizing, and I'm I apologize for taking so long, but it just seems like everyone's saying fine, and they shouldn't be saying fine. And you know, what do people think about that? You know, and I appreciate the time to ask that question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. From what I understand, I don't know how far along they are in the process, but I can tell you right now, I don't know how many if they filed their TM1s, their TM2 applications. I don't know what is approved. I pretty much think that we didn't say it's window. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which I don't believe we totally approved this thing. We're not saying this thing's good. We're still waiting for the applications and the stuff needed from the company to make sure that that the site location that we are approved, we're okay with everything they have. So we're not here saying, no, listen, we approved everything, it's already good to go. We're still waiting for information too. So if it doesn't meet the requirements, and I could tell you the fire department's not going to say, well, I'll just pass it through. You know, we're not going to do that. It's got to meet the requirements. Just so you guys know that these energy storage systems, although ground mounted, not on the roof yet, they're all over the 5 boroughs already. They come in. So we've been they've been installing them, and we've been they've been having to go through the process of getting approval and all this other stuff. So these things are up. They're here. They're in certain areas of the 5 boroughs already, and you don't hear anything about it yet. But that's all I'm saying. I don't want you to have the impression that we said, oh, everything's 100% fine on our end. I believe we're still waiting for certain data, certain things they have to prove to us before we even approve it too. But we understand the big issue is the zoning issue. And like you said too, the building's got to be able to hold the weight that's required of these things. It's got to be able to hold the water, the drainage things. Again, they got to prove to us that it can handle it, or there is proper drainage. Otherwise, we're not going to approve it.
The next speaker is Amy Madden. I do not see Amy. The next speaker is Olivia Silver.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, thank you for giving us a chance to speak. I think Mr. Mays is very easily pushing aside the idea of a worst case scenario. But I think that when you have to consider the lives of 100 people in that building and the neighborhood, and especially when that roof is somebody's ceiling, my ceiling, it's absolutely imperative that the worst case scenario be considered. So I have a couple of questions, and this is mostly based on testimony that FDNY gave at the February 7th BSA hearing. Most of that was given by Battalion Chief Simon Resner. So that's what I'm basing my information on for the most part. My first point is that the system, the water system that these batteries is equipped with, the water spray and the standpipe system, is a dry system, so the FDNY would have to be present at the building in order to activate that water. I'm wondering how long exactly it's going to take for the fire department to get there, because it takes about 10 minutes for a battery experiencing thermal runaway to go into full heat output. That's about 600 to 800 degrees Celsius, so that's burning really hot. And at that point, these batteries are on steel dunnage supports. That amount of heat could melt the steel, causing the batteries to collapse down on the roof. So that's my ceiling, and that would cause damage, to the concrete slab that makes up that roof, and go down into the apartments below. My other point is, how exactly will reignition of these batteries be prevented? It's been said, that they don't need oxygen to propagate, so they're essentially self-fueling. Even once the fire is put out and the batteries are cooled down, they can still reignite. We're talking about a rooftop. Usually with these kind of batteries, what happens is that they're submerged in water. Obviously, that is impossible to hear because you're talking about something that's elevated on top of a roof. You can't submerge it in water. You have to throw water on it and then somehow remove it from the roof in order to avoid it from reigniting and exploding. That's never been clear exactly how fire department would go about doing that. The other thing is that the flammable gases that are going to be released into the environment, into the air by the deflagration panels, which are absolutely toxic, how is this going to impact the neighborhood? Because it seems that this would essentially cause an airborne toxic event that's going to, go further, like what Elizabeth was saying, to just the building. It's going to, impact everybody in the near vicinity. The other thing is the water being thrown up on that roof is going to leak, go down the staircase. In case of a fire, right now, the roof is our main fire egress. Obviously, with that system up there, it's going to be impossible for this to be our fire egress. So we're assumingly going downstairs, which are now wet and slippery. The fire department is going to have to go upstairs, which are wet and slippery. That seems to me illogical and quite dangerous. And I think, oh yeah, a couple of other things. You're saying these batteries are safer. These are the same batteries that were used in Beijing. There was an explosion there. The system seemed to be, operating just fine. The batteries were also just fine. 2 firefighters were killed in that explosion. I was reading the report. It said that actually putting water up on the batteries that were flaming may have caused the other batteries to short circuit and explode, so that throwing water on these batteries may actually not be the best way to put out a fire. So that to me is very concerning. And then my last point is 2 points. What about lightning? What if a bolt of lightning strikes one of these batteries? What happens then? Considering all the options here, because like I said, this is on top of my head. It's my ceiling, so I want to be 100% sure. I don't really care about requirements and forms and all of this political stuff. For me, that's bullshit, excuse me. So I want to have kind of certainties, which nobody is giving me. And I also read in a comment on a New York Post article about this, that batteries like this can explode under freezing temperatures. I'd never seen that anywhere before, so I was also curious about that. But my main point here is that it seems like our safety is being kind of brushed aside. There's really been no clear, no one has given us a clear way of how a fire could be battled on this rooftop. It seems to me that it's an inextinguishable fire, that this, if there were a fire, which, you know, bad things can and do happen, this would be a
Please
tremendous
summarize.
catastrophe. So I'm just very scared to be living under this. That's basically, you know, and I'd like to have clear answers to my questions that don't involve, you know, they filled out a form and we got approval on this or that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, this is Chief Roach. If I may, two things. Chief Mays, I'm sure can speak to the response time of FDNY units to that address. And we also have Chief Daly on the meeting, who I believe could probably speak to the status of the project, which was something that the lady prior to this lady had questioned. So I just wanted to point that out here. Chief Mays, if you want to go first.
Yeah, all right. So as opposed to a response time, I don't want to throw out numbers, but I know we usually get to a place of within minutes. Again, I'd have to get data if you want exact numbers on response times. But again, these things have the systems, NFPA systems, and not, from my understanding, not all of them are really delusive. They can be hooked up to the building system or city. It depends on the system they use. So, but because you said there within minutes, so also the system going off, we would when we supply the system within minutes. There's all early detections that go on, the battery management system, things being monitored. So we're gonna, when this thing starts showing signs of maybe overheating or anything going on, there's gonna be notifications made. Besides that, exposures, when it has to do with one of the other things we look at before we approve a site is exposure issues. If there's you know, any schools next to anything big, because we're worried about the smoke and it's you know, or the plume of smoke can possibly go and affect adjoining buildings. As you know, make sure they're safely further enough away that maybe might not become an exposure problem. Roof access, I don't know, most people don't, you really shouldn't be going to, I mean, most people take the fire escape down the stairs, or you want to leave the building down the stairs. I know in the movies, everybody runs to the roof, but you know, sometimes you have no choice, but you really should be going downstairs. I suppose us fire department, while we're operating, those are the conditions we operate in all the time. So fighting the fire, wet stairs, this and that, that's what we do all the time. The Beijing fire, that happened in 2021. Not saying that, but technology has gotten better since then. I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just letting you know, it's a lot of these fires, you got to understand when they happen. The Arizona one, 2019 it happened. So everybody thinks of Arizona and exploded. They've come a long way. I don't say we, because it's not us. They've come a long way with the technology again. And I'm not pushing safety aside. I'm not worried. I'm saying, I'm not trying to push this thing and say I'm not concerned about the safety of the people. We are the safety of the people. And that's why you guys here on the community board meeting, if you're fighting and they don't put it on there, it helps us out too. There's one less thing we got to worry about, I guess, you know? So we're not saying, again, we're not saying here that this is not a problem, you should put it in, you know, we're not advocating that. We're here to answer questions about our fire department response and the process that we take before these things go in. I don't know if Chief Daly or Rich, you want to add anything else?
Chief Daly, can you speak to the previous lady's question about the status?
Oh, sure. My name is John Daly. I represent the department at the Board of Standards and Appeals. I'm sure you've seen my letter from a few months ago where the Bureau of Fire Prevention issued a conditional letter of no objection. After extensive review with various units in fire prevention and in operation, we listed additional items that we wanted on this roof installation, which Microgrid has accepted. Currently, the application was supposed to be heard today at the BSA, Board of Standards and Appeals, but they're still waiting for their SECRA application from DEP. So when they get that SECRA report, then the commissioners from the BSA will meet again. We'll go through all the items that we are requiring. Don't forget, all these items that we want, will be placed in the special permit. The minute the developers are not in compliance with these conditions, we can bring them back to the BSA and have that special permit revoked. Again, everyone in fire prevention and in operations, we communicated throughout this whole time. We are aware of people's concerns. Their safety is the most important thing to us, and of course, me, it's firefighters as well. And we thoroughly reviewed these applications. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
The next speaker is Jennifer Cooper. Jennifer?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jennifer Kuipers. Thank you for this opportunity to hear me. I was very concerned when I just heard Chief Mays say just now that water does not put out thermal runaway. The water is to keep the other batteries cool so they don't go as well. And that was my layperson's understanding, that lithium ion just needs to be permitted to burn out. I was just reading an article that in 2021 there was a 300 megawatt fire, August 2nd, 2021. It took 4 days for the firemen to put it out. That is a big concern. No one else seems to have caught that, but he literally just said that. So it would just be burning. As far as water weight on our roof, I have pictures. There are literally 2 4-inch drainage holes on our roof. And in the BSA meetings, they were just speaking about like enlarging scuppers, which are just holes out to the side of the building by a foot. I don't understand how this is supposed to drain the thousands and millions of gallons of water that are going to be needed to put out this thermal runaway. And I'd love for that to be spoken to. I'm very concerned about all these regulations they have to meet, but how does that translate on the ground? Is there inspections after the fact to go look at what's actually physically happening? Because as it stands now, I know just as common sense, that is definitely not adequate drainage for anything. And it'd take just a handful of leaves to clog that. I don't really understand how that's even being considered. I have another question. How much actual real life experience does FDNY have at putting out thermal runaway of this type of battery and on this scale? So, and as far as timing goes, if it's 10 minutes for complete thermal runaway to happen, within minutes is not enough. It's not fast enough, because that's just to arrive. That's my 2 minutes. I was timing myself. I don't know. Those 2 questions I'll stick with. Like, what is the real life experience, and how is 2 4-inch holes supposed to be adequate drainage? Thank you.
Well, as far as experience, again, this is still all somewhat, we're still learning more and more about these things as the days go on. Our experience with the batteries is dealing with on the lower scale is the e-bike. Even though they're different type and they're not going to meet the regulations, it's still somewhat it's the same type of battery, 18650, and a lot of them, depending on the product you have going on the roof. I don't know what exactly the Fluence has. I'd have to check that. But we go to them. I mean, you see the news, you see the paper, these things that these people are bringing their e-bike scooters in their buildings and all this stuff. And so we go 5, 6, 7 a day all the time putting out. And when we go to UL Laboratories, I went in Philadelphia. They do all the testing. Again, this is more like for the e-bike scooters and mobility devices, but it's just batteries at a smaller scale. And then we learn from all the fires and that they have, like you mentioned, everywhere else, and you learn and how they're building them. They're learning from these things on what how to build them, how not to build them, what to use, what not to use. That's my opinion on it. But as of right now, we're probably one of the only agencies that has a lot of experience with putting out lithium-ion battery fires, just on the mobility device side of it. Again, this is like you mentioned, it's an energy storage system. It's a lot more batteries, but just got to state the fact that the e-bike batteries are totally different, where they're not regulated, they're counterfeit or knockoff batteries, so it's just different. They don't go through the testing these batteries do. I don't know where you said something about 10 minutes to respond, or 10 minutes to go on a runaway. I don't believe there is a time. They do all these testings all the time. We're constantly seeing UL do different testings. We have videos of it, and you know, they all don't burn the same. They all go into thermal runaway at the same time. So that's it. And as opposed to you have thermal runaway, it's the lithium ion is in there. It's going back and forth, heating up the batteries. It can't dissipate the heating time, and they heat up the off gas, and that's what thermal runaway is. But obviously, once that happens, yes, you can't stop the individual cell. So when you putting it in water, you're slowing down the process, the cascading effect, the propagation. So you want to start cooling the surrounding ones to slow the process down. I don't know what else you asked. I don't know if Chief Daly or Rich wants to add something about the drainage issue with the roof.
Chief Daly, do you have any visibility on the drainage question that the lady asked?
Unfortunately, I'm not an engineer, and the engineers that Microgrid and the building owner hired, they sworn provided affidavit to the Department of Buildings that the roof is sufficient to hold any amount of water that the fire department may place, and that the drainage from that water is sufficient. So I'm not an engineer. I cannot comment any further on that. Sorry.
Understood, Chief. Thank you.
Next speaker, Steve Silver. Steve, you're muted.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. Yes? Do you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, you know, I don't know why we have to believe Microgrid. They've lied to us from the beginning. They said this was a solar project. It's not a solar project. They hired the engineers, and okay, why should we believe they're engineers? They're being paid by Microgrid. The building guy who owns the building is being paid by Microgrid. He wants to put this nonsense on the roof. Okay, he's not coming to live here. All right, when the building goes up in flames, nobody from Microgrid is going to be around. Okay, and you guys, the fire department, is going to suffer this. Now, the idea that they're going to put 400,000 pounds of equipment on top of the roof, gigantic monoliths that are 11 feet high on a 4-foot platform, okay? And then you guys are going to come to put out a fire and flood the roof with millions of gallons of water. What's going to happen with all of that weight? The building isn't set up to drain thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons of water. It's not possible. It's not set up for that. It's an insane thing that these guys are proposing, and you guys are going along with it because, okay, the technology is getting better. Yeah, the technology is getting better. We all love technology. Great. But it's going to be on our head here, and if some act of God happens and blows up the goddamn thing, we're the ones who are going to suffer. This is the wrong place to put a system like this on an old building. This building is over 100 years old. Okay, now they're fixing the outside of the building, but as Chris Quirk has stated before, the rebar is in question in the entire structure of the building. Okay, it's the wrong building. It's the wrong place. That's all I got to say. It's a crazy fucking problem. And
The next speaker is Daniel Rosenbaum. Daniel, you're muted. Hello. Daniel? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. That is it for speakers on 315 Berry Street.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Now we have some questions. We have questions from the board.
Yeah, I have my hands up, Sonia.
Yeah, I got hands up. I'm looking at. Son Michelli?
Sure. A very brief comment, and maybe it'll become a question. I mean, I understand, of course, I also understood that the scale of this battery are kind of unprecedented in a residential building. And I want to empathize because I've been following a little bit at the other Steve Environmental Committee meeting and also from the past. I mean, it is definitely an added risk on a residential building. It's like if I go and purchase several tank of propane gas and I'm going to drive with this tank in my car and I ended up having an accident, yes, the tank themselves, they could potentially be safe. You know, they're never safe. But the moment I drive on a car with this tank, which is legally, I did it. And, you know, it's an added risk. And I believe that this is a residential building, which I said in the past, I lived there for a short while in the past. I know very well. I mean, it's a total residential building, and this is taking place, and I have great concern. And I great concern also, you know, that our fire department is here, and I understand the political pressure that they exist beyond this, staff, and it is concerning. It's unfair to the resident. Honestly, I would not want to have it on my roof, and nobody will want to have such a risk. And that's what we should look at it. This is a business venture that is going to generate a lot of money. The building doesn't benefit, it's somebody else benefit, the ownership of the building. And it's nothing, I'm not against the idea of the business or the revenue this can generate, but it is concerning. I will be, those type of facility should happen in place, our engineer design, whatever there is, we are aware there is a risk, and that risk can be contained within the facility without involving anybody else, not the resident, nor the firefighters, which are always the one that risk together with the resident when something happens. This is my comment. I don't know if it was a question, but let's remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. Sonia Glacis.
Thank you. I mean, I have a lot of faith in FDNY, but it's not very comforting. I live a few feet away, and it's alarming. It's not comforting again. It's a residential area. There's a house of worship. There are children. I am just like, I have no words. I can't wrap my head around agreeing to something within a residential area. I am totally like beyond words. I'm so frustrated that this thing can happen. You said yourself, Chief, you're still learning more and more. It's not a comforting thing. And I cannot fathom the fact that even if you try to do as little damage control, they still will be damaged. So it's very concerning to me as a resident a few feet away.
Thank you. Del Teague.
Yes, thank you. I would like to make it clear that we, the community board, gave this a lot of thought, and we voted to recommend that the city deny this application. And we suggested that if the city wants to start allowing these installations, that they start with manufacturing or commercial buildings, so that you learn on buildings that have fewer people, and that the people are not individuals who stand not to lose their lives if there's a problem, but who would lose all their belongings, their homes. So as this community board has made it clear already that we do not approve this. We think if the city wants to start with these applications, learn in different buildings, put them on, allow them on a manufacturing building, maybe a commercial building, but not a residential building. And I just don't understand how the approach is so surgical, and so cold. Well, if our requirements are met, then it'll be allowed. And yet, in the same breath, you admit you're still learning and the technology is improving. So, the community doesn't want this. And I don't see why it has to be allowed. Let it, there are other buildings that it could go on where the individual tenants, individuals whose whole lives, including their actual lives, but their homes are in these buildings, and it's an unnecessary exposure to our residents. And again, we don't want this application. We gave great thought to it, and we begged the city, don't approve it.
Yes.
Thank you, Dal. I don't
Thank
see any other hands. Steve, would you like to make a last comment on this issue?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks again, FDNY, for coming here and hearing, the community speak about this issue and answering, folks' questions. But, I have a similar takeaway that Del has. And I know you're not deciding on this application, but it just the idea that, yes, you've had experience with these small e-battery bike fires, but not with a large scale battery storage system. And I just feel like the test case should be, in a manufacturing commercial building, or I know these systems are very expensive, but if there is, testing in the field, just where in extinguishing, a fire in a test case, of this scale, but yeah, it's very disconcerting to hear, with, everything you said's in place in terms of access and, the water, and describing how you would extinguish that fire, but just hearing, you kind of have to let it burn and keep it as cool as possible while it burns out. That's disturbing, just wondering how long that would go on and how much destruction would occur to the building and to the apartments and the possessions of the folks who live down there. So, and that's all I'll say. But again, this was really, really important. I also want to give really thank Joanna for persisting and with this invitation and helping bring the FDNY folks here tonight.
I don't know if it matters. Again, it's a smaller, on a smaller scale. They're installing these things, not in New York City, because we're holding them up at the moment now, but all across the United States, these power walls are installed in residential homes, 1 and 2 family homes, smaller scale, and they're installed already in over 400,000 homes. And they really hasn't been a problem with them. So people use them for the backup energies, and I'm sure if people do traveling, you must have seen them. So again, I'm not advocating it. I guess you guys, if you're not happy with it, then I agree with you. If you're not happy with something, you're not happy. You need to speak up. I don't know if that's all I just want to tell you. I don't know if Chief Daly or Richie would like to have any closing statements.
Madam Chair, I understand Chief Daly, from a closing standpoint perspective, can give a brief rundown on the list of all the safety equipment that the system and or the FDNY has advocated for this project. So Chief Daly, could you close us out for this evening then, unless there's any additional questions?
Sure. As Chief Mays had mentioned, for the system Fluence to be accepted here in New York City, had to be tested to a UL 9540A. From that report, we were able to gather what systems we should have in here. The first line of defense that we have is what's called the battery management system. This system monitors the batteries 24/7, where an outside company is monitoring that system. When they see something going on, they have to notify the fire department. In addition, inside each cube is an aerosol suppression system. In addition, we have a fire alarm system. In addition, we have a dry standpipe system. We're going to have adjacent to that courtyard where they're going to put the generator, there's going to be a standpipe riser going on the exterior of the building. Then there'll be hose outlet at the 2 stairwells that's on the roof. So firefighters, when they are on the roof, they can stretch a line from those hose outlets. In addition, each cube is protected by a water spray mist system, NFPA 15, as Chief Mays had mentioned. In addition, we also told them that the security, because of what has been happening around the country, that the fencing around this equipment, so no unauthorized access onto the platform for these batteries. Someone mentioned earlier where in the event these batteries do catch fire, melts the steel grid, and then collapse onto the roof and down. But Chief Mays and I, we cannot answer the question how long the FDNY would respond to the location, but it'll be within minutes. One of the requirements we wanted between the steel platform grid and the Fluence Cube is a 1 hour rated cement fiberboard. That's the wrong term, but it's a 1 hour rated board that will keep flames and heat from spreading onto the platform. In addition, we wanted the less Fluence Cube. I believe the original installation asked for over 15 megawatts. We were able to reduce it down to 9 megawatts. I believe now with all these conditions and and working with the various units in fire prevention and operation, we have come up to a good solution that would mitigate any harm to the tenants, to the building, and to firefighters. Thank you for allowing us to join you tonight. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the residents and the boards for sharing their concerns. I'd like to thank Chief Roach and his team for accepting our invitation. And I really appreciate you in helping to enlighten us on this very, very difficult situation. Thank you so much. Be healthy, be safe. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is liquor license. Joanna, do we have any speakers on any of these liquor licenses?
Yes, we do. The first speaker is Kate McTire. Kate, you're muted.
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, I'm speaking about the liquor license for the renewal for 147, 149 McCarran LLC. That's the McCarran Hotel on North 12th Street. I'm a resident and owner in a building on North 11th Street. And we've had a number of issues with this basically unauthorized nightclub that's been operating on their roof over the past 6 months. I think a number of other residents of the building have spoken about this in the past. But I'm one of the residents here wanting to speak about the renewal of the liquor license because, to this point, they've had so many complaints, they've had fines issued, and they really have not changed their behavior. And so we think there needs to be more serious consequences. So I was born here in New York City. I've lived in very noisy neighborhoods. I'm not somebody that's ever complained about my neighbors. I actually had never called 311 in many years of living here until this incident. I'm very happy for this hotel to make money and for local businesses to be doing what they need to do. But this building was never meant to be zoned for an open air nightclub in the middle of families, apartments, people trying to sleep, and happening 3 nights a week, basically from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. I've tried everything in my power to mitigate the noise. I've closed all the windows, air conditioning as high as I can put it, earplugs, headphones on, my own music, and you can still feel the vibrations coming through the windows. You can hear it through the floors. I've been dealing with long COVID, and so I've needed to get adequate rest to be able to recover. And since June, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., I've been kept awake. I was working really late nights and coming home very late during the week, and then coming home on the weekend, unable to sleep all weekend, and ended up having to take a leave of absence from my job because I wasn't recovering.
Summarize.
Sure. So I just basically, the operators have been fined by DEP. They've had hundreds of 311 calls against them. As neighbors, I'm also on the condo board of 135 North 11th. We've tried to work with them. We've tried everything. They haven't listened. Really, the only thing that will tell them that their behavior needs to change is some kind of significant consequence. And with this renewal, we want to raise this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. To our speakers, please keep in mind you have 2 minutes, and we have quite a few speakers on the same topic.
Next speaker is Rahika.
Hi, this is Radhika. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for having me at this meeting, dear members of the Brooklyn Community Board. My name is Radhika, and my boyfriend Karn and I are residents of the same condominium, 162 North 12th. I'm here to speak about our painful experience with Coda Hotel, formerly known as the McCarran Park Hotel, who's set to renew their liquor license. I want to inform you of all of their violations, which has deeply affected many members of our community, leading to a poor quality of life. Firstly, a little bit of context. The hotel operates a rooftop nightclub by the name of Creatures of All Kind. This is not a restaurant, this is not just a bar, this is a nightclub where DJs perform like it's a concert. They have blaringly loud music with heavy bass that the walls in our home vibrate, which makes it impossible to sleep at night. This has been happening on most weekends, including Friday, ever since they opened their bar in June. I want to talk a little bit about the violations and the impact that it has on our community. As the past resident mentioned, just since June 2022, there have been over 100 complaints, out of which 40% has been acted by cops. The DEP has fined them on September 9th. The operation of our nightclub within the hotel violates the certificate of occupancy and zoning. I also have video proofs of this from their past events over the last few months, which we had emailed to you last night. There have been many times when I've gone up to the bar and spoke to the bar operators and managers, and every time I go up and ask them to stop this nuisance, they say they have no control over the music. And they also told us that even having them soundproof the bar is a favor to us. And they've actually done the most minimal soundproofing, and soundproofing won't even work because we actually share a wall with them. And our HOA board has spoken to them several times, and they say they will turn down the music, but they never have, and they don't. Thirdly, on a personal front, I want to reiterate that this has taken a big toll on my health. I haven't been able to get a restful night on sleep on many occasions. It's become a norm that I don't sleep. I sleep barely for 2 hours, and I wake up with bass ringing in my head. On 2 occasions, I took competitive exams with roughly only 2 hours of sleep because of their strong bass during the night. And on many nights, my boyfriend and I have to sleep on an air mattress in the kitchen area because it's the furthest away from our windows, so we can just get a few hours of rest. To sum up, I want to reiterate, by granting them a liquor license, we're giving them permission to continue to blatantly violate rules and regulations. We hope that you take this into consideration and all the violations mentioned above and our advocacy, so we seek that you do not renew their liquor license. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jeff Carb. Jeff?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Jeff Carb. I also am talking on the same issue about the McCarran Hotel. I live on 11th.
Simon Weiser. Okay.
Hello?
No, just give me, no, talk. I want to just apologize. I'm going to call you back now.
Simon,
The problem is my daughter,
Simon,
she only comes in like once a week now. And so I couldn't find the
Simon!
Continue, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you may continue.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Okay, so I live in 135 North 11th. I'm in the same situation as Kate and Radhika. I'll skip my own personal experience, which is the same as the two of them that you just heard. I think it's unequivocal that the hotel is operating an illegal club. They're not operating a restaurant. And even if they were allowed to operate a club, they play music at illegal levels for great lengths of time during the week. I think this is not in dispute. I think that brings me to what I actually want to talk about here to the community board, what I think is the most important consideration. I've lived in New York for 20 years. I've actually never, in other neighborhoods, I've lived in many different neighborhoods, never felt a sense of community. This is the first, Williamsburg was the first time where I actually really felt a connection to my neighborhood. I'm friends with many people in the neighborhood. I know the owners of many businesses around here. I support them. I think fundamentally what it means to live in a community is to feel that a sense of your actions, how they affect others. And I personally want to, at the very least, do no harm, and ideally help others in my neighborhood with any sort of actions that I take. As we've heard, we've confronted the hotel. We've been told that they actually don't care about fines because they make so much money from this nightclub. They don't care about rules. They don't care about regulations. They don't care about their neighbors. We've dealt with them. We have a special relationship with them, easements, where we can use some of their space. They can use our space. So I deal with their operator and part of the condo board. I deal with them in other negotiations. The operators are very disingenuous, completely selfish. In short, they are the opposite of what I would want in my community. If you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So I don't really have a question. I didn't realize that we were here to ask questions. But if I did ask one question, it would be, do we want to be here again next year with more upset members of this community? That's what will happen if we don't revoke their license or not renew their license, because they're not going to change their behavior unless they're forced to. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mark Semutu. I do not see Mark. The next speaker is Samir.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm just going to reiterate some of the stuff that my colleagues have said. Dear esteemed members of the community board, my name is Samir Talati and I reside at 135 North 11th Street. Adjacent to where I live is Coda Hotel, formerly known as McCarran Park Hotel. The hotel has two venues managed and operated by Full Life Hospitality. In bad faith, they've taken it upon themselves to turn this location into a late night club this past weekend until 4 a.m. And this has been going on for quite some time now. This use was never the intent by the community, as the liquor license was issued to a restaurant and hotel. Additionally, the zoning does not allow for this type of use. I provide details in an email that I sent to you all earlier today or yesterday. This email has close to 100 311 calls in less than 6 months. As Radhika had mentioned, 40% of the time action was taken. I've also submitted a log of this in my email, and I think Radhika as well. Moreover, the DEP sound test in early September showed illegal noise levels. It's not just us being crazy. A city agency has deemed them illegal, and the hotel was fined. What was their reaction? One would reasonably think they would meet with us and work out a solution. The truth is, they played music louder and longer into the night. I also shared this evidence in my email, their videos. We have tried to work with Vanessa at Councilmember Ressler's office so that she can act as a mediator. No mediation occurred. In fact, when I shared my concerns to this community board about the hotel via email, somehow the hotel GM received my confidential email a day later. This was sometime in October. His response to me via text was, "Dear Samir, when you write to the Brooklyn Community Board, please know that we are very well connected." I share this to point out that the hotel management and hospitality group truly believe they can get away with anything due to their perceived connections. Again, this is their perception, or else why would they or you continue to blast the music and violate these regulations? So, on February 28th, we will be present at the SLA meeting and come in numbers to demonstrate that this venue should not be granted a liquor license. Back in 2019, and this is no surprise to all of you, you had your doubts, saw that there was a change in management, and proceeded to give them a license. We appreciate that. However, at this time, let us not make the same mistake. They will say that they've changed, they've modified. The reality is they've done nothing except to make things work and created a nuisance. After examining all the testimony and hearing from all stakeholders, we know you will reject this renewal application. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to upcoming meetings.
The next speaker is Abby Bellinan.
Yes, hi. So Abby Valinand, speaking on the same issue, I'd like to echo the comments that the other residents have made around extremely loud music. So they not only have a dance club on the rooftop, they also have one in the basement. So we literally get no break on the bass. And so just the ask here is that we not continue to condone this bad behavior where they blatantly disregard noise protocols. So that's all I have to say.
The next speaker is Thomas Hackett. Thomas?
Hi.
Hi, you're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Tom Hackett, 162 North 12th, apartment 4D, right next to the hotel. My colleagues said everything that I wanted to say. So, I mean, I have a question for the board. And the question is this, I just listened to tenants of Berry Street talk about their lives being at risk for for faulty batteries. And what it sounded like to me was the permits have already been processed. There's some revision being made, but they're moving forward. So my question, and I'd like an answer if possible, is what influence does the board actually have? Here we are talking about a quality of life issue and sleep deprivation, and the people that we just listened to, they're worried about the souls of 100 people, right? And to me, that's a no-brainer. That it seems to me that there should be something done there. What can you do for us in terms of getting this liquor license revoked so that we can sleep at night? We can have a life. That's it. Thank you.
Next speaker is Karan. Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes.
Dear members of the board, I'm a resident at 162 North 12th Street, right next to the McCarran Hotel, now rebranded as the Coda Hotel. I object to renewing the hotel's liquor license. I had sent an email to the board last night with facts and evidence, so I'll keep it short. In essence, the hotel with its 3 venues, they have a pool, which they operate in the warmer months, a rooftop nightclub, and a basement nightclub. And they have been a nuisance to our community. The heavy bass from all 3 venues has seriously affected our health. It's affected my work, it's affected my life. The effect has been such that my that my head just aches all the time. There have been almost 100 311 calls in the past half a year, and the DEP has found them once as well. The hotel has done nothing to solve the problem. The existence of a outdoor pool with an actual beach club and like a rooftop nightclub and a basement nightclub around homes is a complete anomaly. Our home shares a wall with this hotel as well. So the bass really reverberates throughout our entire home. We have spoken to the staff and the manager about this issue multiple times. We have never been helped once. Instead, the music often becomes even more loud. In one instance, the manager of the hotel asked us to wear headphones for the noise coming from the beach club. In one other instance, the bar operator of the rooftop remarked that they don't really need soundproof as they have the liquor license. And by soundproofing, they're doing us a massive favor, which is just insane. They expect us to suffer when in fact they should not be in operation. Bad actors like these are why people have to go through this whole liquor license. So they have to fill out forms and be interviewed for a liquor license. And they do not deserve a liquor license. I really hope the board does not give them one.
The next speaker is Dirk McCall de Palom. Hello?
I'm here.
Yes,
Hi.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm here speaking on 110 Kent Avenue. Avi Yipikare, the proprietor, was here for a while, but he had to leave, so I apologize for that. I'm handling community relations for Avenue Marceau. We're bringing a new restaurant, Madame Renee, to the old Biba space. We've had 2 community meetings so far. We're going to do at least 2 more, and we're looking forward to working with the community and hearing people's concerns.
The next speaker was Avi, and like Mr. Malone mentioned, he is gone. So that's it on speakers, liquor license.
Thank you, Joanna. That concludes our public session. And we go into our board meeting. Can we have a moment of silence, please? Thank you. Can I have the roll call, Sonia?
Yes, Gina Argento. Baden Bakarowski.
Here.
Lisa Bamonte.
Here.
Gina Barrows.
Here.
Eric Brusides.
Here.
Iris Cabrera.
Here.
Bill Caponegro. Frank Cabone.
Here.
Steve Chesler.
Here.
Michael Chilincelli. Teresa Cinciaro. Stephanie Cuevas. Ron and Daly. Giovanni Diamato. Giovanni?
I'm here.
Thank you. Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur Dibinowski.
Here.
Lloyd Feng.
Here. Sorry, I'm late.
Julia Amanda Foster.
Here.
Crystal Garcia.
Here.
Joe Goldstein. Joe Gross. David Helmick.
Here.
Sabrina Help. Katie Denny Horowitz.
Here.
Sonia Iglesias here. Moses Ending. Robert Jeffrey.
Here.
Bonzina Kaminsky.
Here.
Corey Canton.
Here.
Paul Kilterborn.
Here.
William Clasbo.
Here.
Yolando. Marie.
Here.
Yolo. Trina McKeever.
Here.
Adam Myers? Adam Myers,
I'm here.
thank you. Sante Michelli,
I'm here.
Toby Markowitz,
Here.
thank you. Rabbi David Niederman,
Yeah.
Karen Nieves,
Yeah.
Mario Domerick,
I'm here.
Janice Peterson, Bella Sables, Isaac Sofa, Del T,
Here.
William Vega. William,
Isaac Sofer is here.
thank you. William Vega. Maria Viera. Simon Weiser. Simon? Thirty-two members answer the call. Enough for the quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Can I have approval of the agenda?
I make a motion.
I second Iris Cabrera.
All in Iris, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Against? Abstentions? Motion approved. Can I have approval of the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second David Niederman.
Julie Foster.
Julia Foster and David and Rabbi Niederman, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you.
Chair, this is Simon. I had a problem with my muting before. I'm here.
Everybody got problems, Sonia. Thank you. Okay, can we have the rest of the speakers, Joanna?
The next speaker is Jessica Hope. Jessica, you're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Holt, and I am here representing my company, Grow NYC. We're a local environmental nonprofit, and we're known for our environmental projects all throughout New York City, such as the green markets and our composting program. The program I'm here to represent is the Stop and Swap program, which brings free community reuse events all over New York City called Stop and Swaps. And I'm here to talk about one that we're having this weekend in Williamsburg. And it's going to be a clothing stop and swap or apparel stop and swap. And the way that these events work is that they are one-day donation and pickup events where people can bring unwanted reusable goods that they would like to donate. And these goods are available for anyone to come and take for free. You also don't need to bring anything to take something. It's not an even swap. It's just you can donate, you can take, up to you. And like I said, this event is for apparel items, so clothing, shoes, accessories, etc. Adult and children's sizes. So the event is happening on Sunday, this coming Sunday, January 15th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And our donations are accepted from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's happening at the Cooper Park Community Center at 76 Kingsland Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, 11211. And I have sent the flyer to the board. I don't see any way I can distribute it here as there's no chat, but if that could be shared to anyone who may want it, that would be wonderful. Thank you and have a good night, everyone.
The next speaker is Kyle Gorman.
Christian Morales. So I'm going to be sending an email tomorrow morning
William, you should mute yourself.
to them three to get together. Now, is it okay if I blind copy you and Emily, or I just tell you?
William, you should
William,
mute.
we can hear you, William.
Mute yourself.
All right.
And everybody mute themselves if they're not speaking, please.
Great. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Gorman. I'm from the city's Department of Transportation. Tonight, I'm here to make a very brief announcement about a workshop that we're hosting on January 31st, Tuesday, January 31st, between 4 and 8 p.m. about some open streets in North Brooklyn, in particular, Berry Street and the North 15th Open Street, which is commonly referred to as Banker's Anchor. This is sort of the last design workshop that we're going to be holding with the community ahead of implementing a street improvement project sometime in 2023 on both of these corridors. So everyone from the community, whether you live here, do business here, visit here, what have you, is invited to the workshop on January 31st. Like I said, it's between 4 and 8 p.m. You can come anytime between that time. It isn't necessarily starting at 4 o'clock per se. There is no formal presentation. It's designed to be a very passive style workshop where, like I said, people can drop in as needed. It's going to be held at Bushwick Inlet Park. The Parks Department has a community building that's located sort of towards the west side of the park near Kent Ave, east side of the park, not west, where on Kent Avenue, where we'll be hosting it indoors. So please come out if you're around. Once again, it's January 31st. Between 4 and 8 p.m. At Bushwick Inlet Park, the community center building that's there, and it's all about the Berry Open Street and North 15th Open Street. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Next speaker is Anais Alves. Anais is not here. Next speaker is P. Is not here. And the final speaker is Daniel Golihar. Daniel, you're muted.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Daniel Gollier. I live off the Morgan Street stop on the L line, and I just wanted to formally introduce myself to the board in this meeting. I've met a few of you in person, and you have been universally helpful. And that has manifested in a trash pickup that I co-organized and led this past weekend around the Morgan L stop. We had over 30 people attend and picked up more than 2,000 pounds of trash. And we intend to repeat this exercise as much as needed. So if anyone is interested in this kind of thing, I submitted a link in our write-up for the event and my registration for this testimony. But mostly I just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you to the individuals that I've worked with here before. I look forward to accomplishing much more in the area, and thank you. That's it.
That is it for speakers.
Thank you, Joanna. Committee reports, Parks and Waterfront, Bill Caponegro. Bill?
Madam Chair, Phil is out, and this is Trina, and he asked me to do the report for him. The Parks Committee met in quorum on December 12th, and to discuss the Berry Street Playground. And I just want to point out the Berry Street Playground is on the same block as 315 Berry Street. And it's an older playground that has a lot of really mature trees, but what it had was really, or what it has is very old play equipment and a pretty decrepit basketball court. And after the scoping meetings, that the Parks Department brought back the design to the committee, and the committee was very much in favor of it. There was new play equipment. They were adding a spray shower, new lighting. They're repaving the basketball court. They're expanding. They're putting in some more new trees and saving the trees that are there. And it seemed like to the committee, it seemed like the design was very responsive to what the community had asked for, and just seemed cohesive and good. There was one issue that was brought up by Jan Peterson during the meeting, and that had to do with handicap play equipment, handicap swings. And what they have, all the equipment that's proposed for the park is ADA accessible. But what Jan was asking for and has asked for at previous parks meetings and in different board meetings are swings that will work for wheelchairs. And what the park designers and Mary explained was in this particular playground, there isn't space for that, but they did hear the request and will take it under consideration. And so what the committee voted for was to approve the proposal with the provision that on this project and future parks projects, that installation of handicap equipment will be taken into consideration. And for that, we need a motion.
I'll make a
Make a
motion,
motion.
Katie. Oh,
Second by
I'll
Steve.
second.
Jessup.
Hey, Katie and Steve, roll call vote, please.
So sorry. Gina Argento. Gina Argento. Bonin Bakarowski.
Yes.
Lisa Bamonte.
Yes.
Gina Barrows.
Yes.
Eric Rosaitis.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Yes.
Phil Caponegro. Frank Cabone.
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Yes.
Michael Chincelli. Teresa Sensaro. Stephanie Cuevas. Juan Daly. Giovanni D'Amato.
Yes.
Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur DiBernowski.
Yes.
Lloyd Fang.
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster.
Yes.
Krista Garcia.
Yes.
Joe Goldstein. Joe Gross. David Helmick.
Yes.
Sabrina Help. Katie Denny Horowitz.
Yes.
Sonia Iglesia, yes. Moses Inding. Robert Jeffrey.
Yes.
Bozina Kaminsky.
Yes.
Corey Canton.
Yes.
Paul Kilterborn.
Yes.
William Klasvold.
Yes.
Yolando. Marie.
Yes.
Yolo. Trina McKeever.
Yes.
Adam Myers.
Yes.
Sante Michelli.
Yes.
Toby Markowitz. Rabbi Needleman. Rabbi David Needleman. Karen Nieves.
Yes.
Maria Domerick.
Yes.
David
Janice
Needleman,
Peterson.
yes.
Who's yes? Rabbi?
Yes.
Bella Sables? Isaac Sofa.
Yes.
Del T.
Yes.
William Vega.
Yes.
Maria Viera. Simon Weiser.
Yes.
Thirty-one yes, civil no, civil abstention, civil recusal, motion carries.
That's it for the report too.
Thank you, Sonia. Landmarks, Trina.
Hi, it's me again. So the Landmarks Committee met also in quorum last week to discuss the Domino Refinery building. And you guys hopefully will recall that in December, Two Trees came and gave their proposal before the full board for a marquee for the front of the building. And the building that we're talking about is 300 Kent Street, which takes up the whole block between 2nd and 3rd Street. It's the one landmark building that's on the Domino campus. And the building was built, the building that's got the series of arches, and it was built in 1882, and it was designated a standalone landmark by the LPC in 2007. And so the marquee, it's basically a single sheet of steel that spans the entrance, which is the middle 5 arches of the building. It's 60 feet in length, and it projects out from the building 8 feet. And it stands 12 feet 8 above the sidewalk, which is at the top of the row of arches. And the reason they want the marquee is to designate the entrance, to protect the entryway from the weather, and also to provide signage. And there's the 300 Kent Street address appears in small letters at the top of the marquee. The committee discussed, there were a couple of issues that came up in the committee. The first being that the original scheme, when Landmarks brought the building before the committee, what was approved, there was a marquee that was 12 feet by 6 feet, as opposed to 60 feet by 8 feet. And so there was the question about that. And then there also brought up was that the width of the sidewalk is 10 feet. And so the marquee, it projects out 8 feet. And so it really covers the bulk of the sidewalk. And there was concern about that if that's the entryway for the building, that people would congregate under the marquee and that would block the sidewalk. But there was also the kind of conceptual issue of a marquee that large, potentially privatizing the public space of the sidewalk. And to this, Two Trees responded that the original design was much boxier and more prominent. What they're showing now is a single plate of steel. They've changed their architects, and the architects that brought the marquee to us, they basically have a design that they feel responds to the building as a whole, and they find that it's an appropriate size and design. The building itself is 250 feet long. The marquee is 60 feet. And unlike the previous marquee, they're picking up the steel that's in the building, and it's just a much sort of cleaner, what they feel more appropriate design. They also pointed out that the archways in the building, if you recall, the building, the brick is basically a shell for the building that they're building, which is a glass building within it. And that series of archways along Kent form what is, because there are no doorways in it, they're open, that they're, in essence, it forms a colonnade. The building is set back, a sidewalk's width, the glass building behind the brick is set back a sidewalk's width. And so the sidewalk becomes, the space underneath the colonnade becomes a walkable public space that's outside the building, outside the glass building, but within the brick building. The committee, in the end, after much discussion, came to appreciate the design, and in the end, there was the resolution. What's being proposed is to approve the proposal, and the vote to approve the resolution was made, and the vote to approve was 12 yes and 2 no. And unless people want to discuss it, we'll need a motion for that.
I make a motion to approve.
I second that, Iris Cabrera.
The motion was to approve.
Yes, to approve the design.
The design
of the marquee.
Thank you.
Dale, and who seconded it?
Iris Cabrera.
Iris, thank you, Iris.
Ready? Gina Argento. Baden Barkowaski.
Yes.
Lisa Bamanti.
Yes.
Gina Barrows.
Yes.
Eric Rosaitis.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Yes.
Phil Caponegro. Frank Cabone.
Yes.
Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Michael Chancelli, Teresa Singaro, Stephanie Cuevas, Juan Daly, Giovanni D'Amato,
Yes.
Aaron Drinkwater, Arthur Tibonaski,
Yes.
Lloyd Feng,
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster,
Yes.
Crystal Garcia,
Yes.
Joe Goldstein, Joe Gross, David Helmick,
Yes.
Sabrina Help, Katie Denny Horowitz,
Abstain.
abstain. Thank you. Sonia Iglesia, yes. Moses Ending, Robert Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mosina Kaminsky,
Yes.
Corey Canton,
Yes.
Paul Kilterborn,
Yes.
William Klagsbold,
Yes.
Yolando, Marie,
Yes.
Yolo, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Adam Myers,
Yes.
Tati Machelli,
No.
no. Toby Markowitz, Rabbi David Needleman,
Yes.
Karen Nieves,
This is Toby. I'm sorry. I didn't realize my phone was on mute. That's a yes.
yes, Toby,
Yes.
Maria Domerick,
Yes.
Janice Peterson, Bella Sables, Isaac Sofer,
Yes.
Del T,
Yes.
William Vega,
Yes.
Maria Viera, Simon Weiser. Simon? $28 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention. Motion carries.
That's it for the landmark report.
Thank you, Trina. SLA, Debonowski.
Thank you, Chair Fuller. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. SLA committee held a meeting on January 5th. We had a quorum with 8 members present. We had 17 new license applications and 7 previously postponed, and 19 renewals. And I would like to ask for a motion to approve SLA committee recommendation.
Would like to make the motion.
Sonia Iglesias
approve.
makes the motion.
I would like to make the motion to approve the SLA committee recommendation, please.
So what is Sonia and Bogdan?
Sonia and Bogdan?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? So what exactly we approving?
We're approving the report of the SLA committee.
As written. Did you
As
receive
written,
it?
that's
It's as
correct.
written.
As written, I'm sorry, as written. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Ready, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Gina Argento. Baden Bakarowski.
Yes.
Lisa Belmonte.
Abstain.
Gina Barrows.
Yes.
Eric Rosaitis.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Abstain.
Phil Caponegro. Frank Carbone.
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Yes.
Michael Chancelli. Teresa Sincaro. Stephanie Cuevas. Juan Daly. Giovanni D'Amato.
Yes.
Thank you. Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur Tibonaski. Arthur Tibonaski.
Yes, yes.
Lloyd Feng.
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster. Julia
Yes.
Amanda Foster.
Yes.
Thank you. Crystal Garcia. Crystal Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. Joe Goldstein. Joe Gross. David Hemrick,
Yes.
Sabrina Help, Katie Denny Horowitz,
Yes.
Tony Iglesias, yes. Moses Ending, Robert Jeffrey,
Yes.
thank you. Bozina Kaminsky,
Yes.
Corey Canton,
Yes.
Paul Kilterborn,
Yes.
William Clasbold,
Yes.
Joe Lando, Marie,
Abstain.
abstain. Yolo, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Adam Myers,
Yes.
Santi Michelli,
Yes.
Toby Moskowitz, Toby, Rabbi David Needleman,
Yes.
Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Mary Domerick,
Yes.
Janice Peterson, Bella Sables, Isaac Sofa, LT,
Yes.
Yes.
William Vega.
Isaac Sofer, you went too fast.
I'm sorry, Isaac. Yes? Isaac, what's your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. William Vega,
Yes.
Marie Vieira, Simon Weiser,
Ahead.
27 yes, 0 no's, 3 abstentions, 0 recusal. Motion carries.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you. There's another thing that SLA committee voted on is we would like to ask the board to help us. We want to amend the current SLA application questionnaire to include the following language. Applicants seeking approval for alteration or transfer of current liquor license must include a clear copy of the existing liquor license and a copy of the original signed stipulations for outdoor usage. I would like to have a motion to approve our, to amend our questionnaire with this.
So, motion to approve amending the questionnaire
That's correct.
for the liquor license,
Motion
right?
to approve, David Niederman.
Okay.
Iris Cabrera.
Bogdan second.
David
Rabbi Needleman and David
and
Needleman.
Iris.
I mean, Rabbi Needleman and Bogdan Rokorowski. Roll call vote, please.
Hold on. Pardon. Gina Argento. Bogdan Bakarowski.
Yes.
Lisa Bamanti.
Yes.
Gina Barrows. Eric Buzaitis.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Yes.
Phil Caponegro. Frank Cabone.
Yes.
Steven Sessler.
Yes.
Michael Chincelli. Teresa Sincaro. Stephanie Cuevas. Ron Daly. Giovanni Diamato. Mr. Giovanni?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur Dibonowski.
Yes.
Lloyd Fang.
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster.
Yes.
Crystal Garcia.
Yes.
Joe Goldstein. Joe Gross. David Helmick.
Yes.
Sabrina Help. Katie Denny Horowitz.
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Thank you. Sonia Iglesias, yes. Moses Ending. Robert Jeffrey.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Bozina Kaminsky.
Yes.
Corey Canton.
Yes.
Paul Kilterborn.
Yes.
William Calsborough,
Yes.
Yolando Marie Liaison,
Yes.
Yolo, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
you, Adam Myers,
Yes.
Sante Michelli,
Yes.
Toby Markowitz, Rabbi David Needleman,
Yes.
Rabbi
Yes.
Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Maria Domerick,
Yes.
Janice Peterson, Bella Sable, Isaac Sofer,
Yes.
thank you, Del T,
Yes.
William Vega,
Yes.
Maria Viera, Simon Weiser. Yes, civil no, civil abstention, civil recusal, motion carries.
Thank you, Sonia.
Madam Chair, I can't get my hand to raise, but could I ask a question of the SLA committee? Do you think it would be possible to make a brief statement to the residents who live next door to the hotel who came out en
Yes,
masse tonight?
yes.
Just to
That's what-
explain the procedure of what's
Okay,
possible?
I was gonna talk about that next. Okay, so they're gonna be on our agenda for the next meeting. So we already told them because they came to our meeting on January. So we told the residents that, you know, to call 301. That's what we tell everybody. We told them to show up. And I think after our SLA meeting, we're gonna ask the board to send the official letter from CB1 to try to revoke the license. I think that's the best solution for that because we've been fighting with this hotel for past 5-6 years. So that's, you know, I'm gonna try to write to Chair Fuller and then to present to the board to try to revoke them from the liquor license at all. That's our goal as SLA committee. We spoke with the residents and you know the great people, and we really support them. And so we're gonna, like I said, the renewal for the hotel is for the next month agenda. So that's why we didn't present it today. Okay, the last thing I want to say that our next SLA meeting will be held on February 28th at 6:30 p.m. That's gonna be it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arthur, and thank you for your follow-up on your issue.
Of course.
Next, environmental protection, Stephen Chesney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Environmental Committee met on January 4th during via WebEx, and we obtained a quorum. The first item, which was we both had a meeting and a hearing, and in the meeting section, we had a brownfield cleanup program item for 210 Greenpoint Avenue, which is the corner of McGinnis Boulevard. It's been a service station for decades, most recently a speedway. The developer plans to build a mixed-use building, 9 stories, and mostly housing. It was attended by the DEC project manager, section chief, and the special assistant commissioner, as well as a representative from the State Department of Health. It's roughly a third of an acre, and there are essentially the assessment of the site is there's 6 underground storage tanks that formerly held gasoline will be removed. They'll be excavating soil, mostly 7 feet below grade, but up to 32 feet and a few hot spots. And they'll collect more soil samples. They'll be implementing a safety plan, a camp. There'll be air monitoring going on, shifting depending on the direction of the wind. And so, one of the key assessments of the site is that, I mean, it's a good thing is that there are a lack of semi-volatile compounds like chlorinated solvents, which tend to be the most hazardous, and we see frequently in these applications. So it's mainly petroleum-related contamination, which is still hazardous. And so before I just get into discussion, we brought up the truck staging routes, entry and exiting and bringing the soil it's in the repository for the project, so there wasn't indicated that, but yeah, getting into the discussion, there are a few significant concerns expressed both by committee members, board members, and the public that attended. Is that you're dealing with, the project manager basically said there were basically no ruptures or leaks of the tanks, but we're just that it was a good sized service station, and it's inundated with petroleum. There is issue we're worried is has the contamination migrated off-site, and there's a residential structures adjacent to two sides, and there's more across Greenpoint Avenue. They had not done testing off-site, so that's one of the things we're kind of urging them to do. As Laura Hoffman pointed out, when they were upgrading the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant, they discovered oil from the oil spill. And then a couple years back at 34 Berry Street, initially it was a much lesser degree of contamination, but after they built the building, they discovered a lot more contamination, and they had to remediate while the building existed with tenants in the building. So that's exactly the kind of thing we want to avoid, as we had vapor intrusion issues on Freeman Street. And then there's just the issue of the location. It's just a really hazardous, busy intersection, and the construction fence, which has been up for months, extends all the way to the curb. And so there's a detour for walking in the street with these plastic Jersey barriers, which are kind of haphazardly put together. Eric Brussetti, who's on the committee, who's our transportation chair, has noted that there have been complaints about those barriers, vehicles impacting them. And so that's a real, numerous people express concern over that. And just the length of time that the construction fence has been up, and they're anticipating this may be a 2-year project between the remediation and the construction. So that that's an issue, and just migrating, whether adjacent properties have been tested. The project manager basically said that they haven't detected any leakage, so they don't believe that there is off-site contamination into these properties. And then it was brought up about communication to nearby residents, and he said it's their standard practice to obviously issue the fact sheet for the project to people who are on their listserv and to stakeholders, but also to physically mail them to residents who live in close proximity to the site. So there was a motion to submit a comment to the DEC, which the deadline is January 30th. The concerns that we want to submit consider that the dangerous conditions created to the extension of the construction fence at the curb that prevents sidewalk access and sloppy permeable arrangement of plastic Jersey barriers delineating a walkway to a detour along Greenpoint Avenue and McGinnis that vehicles are colliding with, and consider an alternative and safer fence and detour solution, including creating access to sidewalks again. truck staging, and trucks entering and exiting the site will create for pedestrians and vehicles a very hazardous environment. The site sits on the corner of an intersection for two heavy-duty vehicle traffic arteries. This plan must be double-checked, and the applicant should consider a safer alternative or alternatives coordinated with Department of Transportation. As noted with examples of unexpected discovery, additional extensive contamination at the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant development and the 34th Street Berry site, we urge the agency to perform investigative off-site testing for contamination, being that this site is adjacent or across the street from residences on three sides. Being that the remediation and construction phases of development will take approximately 2 years or more, the developer should be urged to remove the construction fence and Jersey barriers during breaks in activity. The agency and applicant should coordinate with Department of Transportation to ensure that site activity does not negatively impact newly implemented safety improvements to McGinnis Boulevard, which a few participants brought up as a concern as well. I would also, after the meeting, Evelyn Matichek, who's a longtime resident in the neighborhood, contacted me saying she's wondering if the fire department, which has, a station on the eastern end of the intersection of Greenpoint Avenue, is able to freely make left-hand turns onto McGinnis, considering the location of the barriers and this construction fence. So if it's, considered to be in order, I would like to request a motion for this comment to be submitted with to the DEC, and additionally add requesting that FDNY confirm that they've signed off on the ability to make that turn. Yeah, I was going to mention one more thing, but I just forgot. So
Sorry, guys. Steve.
yes.
I need clarity because there's so much there. Is a
Yeah.
motion to submit?
Yeah, submit the comment as read to the Department of Environmental Conservation. And additionally, request confirmation from FDNY that they have approved the ability to safely make a turn onto McGinnis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
William Vega seconds.
Who made the motion? Katie?
Trina and William Vega. Roll call
Okay.
vote, please.
Hold on. Trina?
I think Katie made the motion and William and I chimed in at the same time. So one of
That
us.
was Katie.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
Katie.
sorry, I didn't hear Katie. Thank you, Trina.
Katie
Katie and Vega.
Vega. Ready?
Julia, can you make the motion clear, please?
All right. The motion is to submit all those concerns that I just reeled off to Department of Environmental Conservation and write to the fire department requesting confirmation that they basically they can safely make the turn south onto McGinnis with the Jersey barriers in place where they are. Is that, do you understand that?
Thank you.
Sure thing.
That's a mouthful. Gina Argento. Bada Makowski.
Yes.
Lisa Bamanti.
Yes.
Lisa Bamanti?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Gina Barrows. Eric Pozaitis.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Yes, Sonia.
Thank you. Phil Capernegro. Frank Cabone.
Yes.
Steve Chesler.
Yes.
Michael Chincelli. Teresa Sicaro. Stephanie Cuevas. Ron Daly. Giovanni Diamato.
Yes.
Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur Dibinowski.
Yes.
Lloyd Fang.
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster.
Yes.
Crystal Garcia. Crystal Garcia, Joe Goldstein, Joe Gross, Dave Helmick,
Yes.
Sabrina Help, Katie Denny Horowitz,
Yes.
Tony Iglesias, yes. Moses Ending, Robert Jeffrey, Bosina Kaminsky,
Yes.
Corey Canton,
Yes.
Paul Kilterborn,
Yes.
William Clagsbold,
Yes.
Yolando, Marie Liaison,
Yes.
Yolo, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Trina, thank you. Adam Myers,
Yes.
Sante Michelli,
Yes.
Toby Markowitz, Rabbi David Needleman,
Yes.
Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Mary Adamarick,
Yes.
Janice Peterson, Bella Sable, Isaac Sofa, Deltine,
Yes.
William Vega,
Yes.
Maria Viera, Simon Weiser. $27 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions, 0 recusal, motion carries.
Great, okay. I also just want to add that Eric Brusitis mentioned at the meeting that the Transportation Committee may consider bringing that item into a future meeting to deal with the traffic flow problems. And then we had some updates, announcements at the meeting, 315 Berry. At the time, we hadn't received word from the fire department that they would be appearing tonight, but Joanna informed us that she had heard back from them. So we're grateful that they were able to have the conversation that we did tonight. Just briefly mention that Governor Hochul, we received, one of her thousands of notices from her office that they're going to start construction of a 339-mile transmission line from Quebec in Canada to New York City to deliver clean energy, greenhouse-free, emission and climate-free, climate-neutral energy to New York City. So it's a huge step in meeting the climate goals for the state and the city. So we, applaud that. There's a link in the committee report if you want to read further about it. And then the board is also informed that the Borden Avenue Pump Station upgrade, which is part of the long-term pollution control plan of Newtown Creek, is moving forward, and it's something that'll be located actually across in the Dutch Kills branch of the creek in Queens, but it'll affect the whole creek. It's a small but significant improvement in getting and complying with the Clean Water Act and the plan. But as Willis Elkins, from the executive director of Newtown Creek Alliance, who we invited to just speak about it, noted that it may have consequences in terms of it'll be diverting the combined sewage overflow, which is a huge problem in Newtown Creek, and this long-term plan is aiming to fix to the East River off of like Bushwick Inlet and the Navy Yard. So it's something maybe we need to consider down the line. So that concluded the meeting, and then we moved into the hearing, which was to continue on the subject of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers draft integrated feasibility report related to storm risk management plan for the entire New Jersey, New York harbor area. And essentially it was an opportunity to receive input both from committee members, board members, general public, and experts. Just the super quick summary is that a part of the plan is to install a 130-foot wide storm surge gate across Newtown Creek near Box Street. And then they would create tie-in infrastructure that would go both up Hunters Point South and Gantry Plaza, up the East River to Queens, and then similarly down around the creek, down the East River in Greenpoint, all the way to Kent Street, which would include seawalls, flood walls, and levees, 70-foot tall, along the shoreline, potentially, shorter in some places, and then infrastructure through Newtown Barge Park and Translator Park going up Greenpoint Avenue. The deadline for comments was extended to March 7th. Gratefully, it's still, really short time period, but it gave us the ability to at least have some sort of, a decent response to the plan. And so we had a really, really great turnout, really great energy, and people just bringing, a lot of deep concerns about the project. A lot of people just were mourning the 2005 rezoning because it just allowed for all this, massive development on the waterfront. And now that is causing a problem in terms of creating an ample defense. And part of that rezoning was, to have these connected waterfront public access area esplanades. And now there's a proposal to put 17-foot wall in front of them. So, and just the, these buildings acting as a levee is, really problematic. So people really, just want to really look at, is that really necessary to have a 17-foot wall? And a wall, a flood wall going through Newtown Barge. It was just redesigned and rebuilt with a berm through the middle of it. And with Transmitter Park, it's both part, we just cherish our parks. We're, just with the population boom that's been going on because of the rezoning, our open spaces are more valuable than ever. Questioning putting a flood wall up Greenpoint Avenue when there are businesses that are on the first block. And then there's a hill going up to Franklin Street. And then the big question is just everything south of Greenpoint Avenue where this infrastructure would end, what would happen then? If it would just be left to flood. And that's a big problem because the predictions are that, the flooding from Hurricane Sandy, that that level would increase greatly in Newtown Creek, Bushwick Inlet, and Wallabout Channel, which would affect Flushing Avenue at the southern end of the district. So, so the idea is that I'm going to take all of this input and we'll crunch it into a recommendation that we will seek board approval for in February. So we're scheduling another meeting for the Environmental Protection Committee on February 2nd, where we'll put a draft together and approve it. And I think one of the real, there's also links to other ideas that were put in here. Venice, Italy, Sante Maselli basically brought that into the meeting. It's called MOSE. There's a link to that where we're going to really look at that. And there's a few other links. I just met yet Will Salkins was there and just really wondering the questioning the positive effects, prevent the creek from flooding. But again, what are the repercussions for the rest of our district that'll be affected? The CSOs, like where is that sewage going to go? And the tidal flow of the creek into the river helps, is helping to clean that body of water. And how will this storm surge gate affect that? So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. But what will the process be going forward after March 7th? It's been, both Katie Denny, Lisa Bloodgood, who's with NBPA, and myself, Joanne have interacted both with the Army Corps, with city planning, with parks, DOT, who also attended the meeting and answered some questions. Thank you, Rhonda Messer, for bringing their resiliency person on that. But the details, this is a concept and it needs approval by various levels of government and it needs funding. Obviously, it's going to be a big question with our current Congress. but still we can't, rest on our laurels. We have to be ready. And so we want a process going forward. We want deep community engagement. So we're talking about, creating a community advisory group or a task force, potentially through the community board, where there's just a real, robust process with the Army Corps and other agencies that are involved with the plan. And so I feel that's a big point of discussion I'd like to have with our committee, but with the board and with Chair Fuller about what would be the best plan of action. The land use chair, Christy from Queens Community Board 2, which is on the other side of the creek affected by this, Christine Hunter was her name, and they expressed interest in maybe working with us, because we share the creek and, similar plans up and down our waterfront. So that's, maybe something to consider in terms of, creating this CAG or task force. There's nothing to vote on. It's just that we just have to get this comment together for next month. And I'd just like to thank everyone who came out. It was really a lot of energy, people just, we're a lot of frustration, disappointment, but I think we see it as an opportunity, to, climate change, whether we like it or not, is here. And the Army Corps has put this wall in front of us as sort of a catalyst to, to come up with innovative ideas about how to deal with. And I think the Army Corps is willing to hear alternatives and hear the real data on the ground of what, in our neighborhood. So, that's kind of where we left it. I don't know if anyone has, any questions about, what we discussed and what the future will hold for this.
Steve, would you allow me to add something to what you have said, please?
Yeah, I just want to add one key point is that the city agencies, the ones that I mentioned, are deferring to the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice on this. They're the city lead with the Army Corps on this. And so we will really be working with them. I just want to mention that, I feel like the ball has really been dropped in communicating with community boards and communities, because it's only because I'm on the Newtown Creek CAG that I found out about it. But like Queens Community Board 2 did not know about it. So it was just kind of word of mouth that they found out. So we really need to get on them as well. But anyway, yeah, Sante, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, I believe we commented last night at the meeting. You said too much, a lot to say, definitely a very little time. But, the cost, if you can re-mention to everybody what the board, the member of the board that they don't know, what is the envision cost for this structure all around New York City. We are on the order of billions and who knows, potentially trillions. That's what I heard, I believe, the first time. Then what is the MOSES that you mentioned? The MOSES, it's a system that's been built in Venice, was an experimental system. It's not a wall. A wall is, from my research, it's an easy fix. You build 17, 20 feet wall, you pour concrete, and it's done. The MOSES is a mobile system which assists submerged. He had some issue because it was experimental. They have adapted. And so one of the invitation was, and they said at the first meeting, the Army Corps of Engineers, which actually they had conversation with the engineer in Venice of the MOSES, but there are other possibility there, maybe more costly, that we don't need to have a solid wall up. Something can go up and down. And then somewhere my comment, Steve, and you mentioned, of course, the rezoning and the fact that those waterfront were water before, many were marshes, and we had an opportunity at a fraction of cost, not billions, and I believe there was knowledge on a federal level about this, that this waterfront could have become a natural resilient space, a natural barrier, potentially become a park where it is not flooded, inundated. And then the final comment I made, and it was a question, where are we going? First, actually, the developer building the 30 years tax abatement, so we should protect them and not contributing, tax-wise. And then what is happening to the other part of the waterfront, which they have not been developed? This is another question on a city level. This is a question on a state level. It's a question on a federal level. Why did I say on a state level? Bushwick Inlet Park, we have there a development, that is actually pushed by an agency. I believe if the cost is billions of dollars, we should acquire every possible land that we have that has not been developed, despite the fact it's been rezoned. And if this is an emergency measure, it requires such an intervention. Who knows? There are so many conversations, but just to say that is important, I believe. That's all.
Thanks, Ante. Yeah, the details of the plan I included in the report. For the committee meeting, I created an abridged version of the Army Corps' presentation. So it has, a summary and some details about the plan. The Newtown, the Newtown Creek plan is part of a larger harbor plan. It's called Alternative 3B. There are 5 plans that are on the table. And the most expensive one is over roughly, I think, around $130 billion. And this alternative 3B that they're leaning towards is right in the middle. It's $76 billion. It will it will have predicted life of 50. They can only say up to 50 years, but it can potentially go to, I think they're looking to 100. Which is the most expensive plan, has a much shorter lifespan. So it protects a lot more territory, but there were a lot of environmental pushback on that. And then the last meeting, the project manager for the Army Corps mentioned that if they were to acquire properties, it would cost hundreds of billions of dollars, and to do a managed retreat would maybe probably go in the trillions to kind of renaturalize our shorelines. But it's like those old Fram oil filter commercials. You either pay now, or you can place the whole engine. Buy an oil filter now, replace the whole engine later. So I know it's a very crude analogy, but yeah. So are there any other any questions?
Yes, Steve, if I may, I'd just like to make a comment. It's like, I really think the idea to set up a task force or a special committee, because we have a lot of local expertise and talent. I know of one professor, when she comes back from Norway, is going to be helping with us. But today I was at Karen's gym playing pickleball, and I asked this young lady, what do you do? And she works for the state environmental department, and her job is to do research. I said, I have a friend I need for you to talk. So please, fellow community board members, if you know people that have expertise in environmental or flooding, please share that information, because these are our neighbors. They live here, so they are impacted. So we need, we all know what we need to do, but we also need to get people that are experts, to know how to lobby and know how to do the research. Thank you.
That's great, William. Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversations in the neighborhood. I know Katie Denny, who's the executive director of Northern Parks Alliance, they're speaking to other open space groups in the city that are being affected by this. Newtown Creek Alliance is speaking to other environmental organizations like at Flushing Bay and Manhattan, Gowanus. But I know I've spoken to Environmental Defense Fund, Waterfront Alliance, Rebuild by Design, extension of NYU. So the potential to bring in a lot of expertise into our conversation is there, and I think it's really essential that we do that. Yeah. All right.
Concludes your report.
That's it. Yeah. Thanks again, everyone. And yeah, that's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Transportation, Eric Mercedes.
As written. Hello?
Do you have a motion there, or just?
No, as
No.
written.
Thank you, Eric.
But I just want to make one comment. We've had, as a lot of you know, there's been problems with the email server at the board office since November. Joanna's been great with following up with Do It to get the problem resolved. But we really, at some point, need to have Do It in to address our concerns about emails that are getting lost, that are going to spam folders, that are being blocked because of the system that Do It has imposed on us. So I'll work with Joanna and Chair Fuller and some others on the exec committee to see how we can get Do It in. I'm sure they're not going to be clamoring to come and talk to us, but we really need to have them in to figure out our technology issues at the office. And that's it. Thanks. It just keeps coming up at my committee. So, and maybe others have had similar issues in their committees, but it's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Eric,
Parks Department minute.
I'm so sorry, Chair Fuller. I just wanted, I share email regarding Microsoft. I had a meeting with them. They said that there was an update that happened a few weeks ago and that caused the issue. And I could share the email with you as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Jonah. We did talk about that, but I think there's other, we talked about this a little bit. There's other problems with Do It that is making our life kind of more difficult, but
yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Joanna. Parks minute as written. Elected officials.
Madam
Councilman
Chair.
Ressler.
Madam Chair, this is Del Teague. I have a land use report to give.
Hold on, Madam Chair. Trina, you have your hand up for something, or? I saw Trina's hand up. Is she?
My hand?
Yes,
No.
up.
I don't
I couldn't
have
get
a
it to go
report
up
for land
before.
use.
Let me get, okay.
You have a report? It's not on my list. Del?
I'm sorry, I did write it in my email, but anyway, yes, I have a very short land use report.
Okay.
And I will mention that I have also been having emails that I know have been sent to me, but one went into spam, another just got lost completely. And Joanna was, thank goodness, really helpful getting me reunited with my invitation to come on tonight. All right. So this is the land use report. We have nothing to vote on, but I want to thank Councilmember Gutierrez for responding to our invitation, coming to our committee meeting to discuss her District 34 land use policy. She stayed quite a while. She answered patiently every question that we had. And the thing that I think was so impressive to us was the fact that the focus of her policy really does align with most of the major issues that we've been struggling with. And our sense was that she will be very supportive in working with us. And we, of course, offered our support to her. One of the things that I'll point out is that the council member feels it's very important, and we've mentioned the same thing, to have a comprehensive planning to the district that would focus on keeping people in their homes and dignified, truly affordable housing. And she talked about a reality check on what affordable really looks like and what AMIs really do make sense for our community. I think that it's very, very reassuring that I think that most of our electeds at this point this year, at this time, are very supportive of these goals. The other thing that she talked about was the fact that she understands that we've all been very frustrated that we don't have a lot of tools to deal with the rezoning, and she said that the council is trying to come up with more tools. She also mentioned that we might want to look at the Bushwick Community Plan. Now, that was a plan that Bushwick worked on, as I understand, for quite a few years. It was not adopted by the city, as our 197A plan wasn't, but Karen Nieves was one of the people working on that plan, and we all agreed that it would be worthwhile looking at it. And Karen volunteered to help us to get a sense of how that plan was developed. So I think that you can go on the council member's website and see her District 34 land use policy. And we can also easily look up the Bushwick Community Plan and it can be perhaps a starting point or just, a point of reference, not just for our land use development, but for development in general. So that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dell. Councilman Ressler? Since he's not here. Ada Radosławiecki from Assemblywoman's Emily Gallagher's office. Ada? Ada? This is almost over. Okay. Senator Christine Gonzalez office, Melissa Markovich.
Who are you looking at?
Okay.
Hello,
Yes,
everyone.
everybody.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi there. I'm Marissa Maverick, and I'm the Director of Community Affairs and Special Projects from the Office of Senator Kristen Gonzalez. I wanted to come on tonight to provide you with a brief introduction to our office. Senator Gonzalez began this new year voting alongside her Democratic colleagues to pass important election protection bills at the beginning of the current legislative session. And as chair of the New York State Senate Committee on Internet and Technology, Senator Gonzalez proudly introduced the Personal Privacy Modernization Act, a bill that would limit law enforcement's ability to access personal information without a warrant and to step forward in safeguarding the privacy of individuals. We are diligently working to secure a district office and are focusing on setting up our operations swiftly so that we may be of service to our constituents as soon as possible. And for any concerns you may have, please feel free to contact me at maverick@newyorksenate.gov. That once again is Maverick, MAVRICH @nysenate.gov. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you, Marissa. Any old business? Any new business?
I have it's Trina, and I have a question regarding 315 Berry Street. One thing that seemed clear to me in hearing the community members speak and the people from the FDNY speak is the people at FDNY, the firefighters didn't seem like they really understand the building, that it's an old building and where it is. What they were talking about were just the rules for those kind of batteries on buildings in general. And I'm wondering whether the community board, in response to the people living in the building, could ask the FDNY to actually look at the building itself, because it doesn't seem like they had a real understanding of the building. And just as a result of the discussion that took place here, it seemed like maybe we could ask them, put a formal request for them to inspect, to look at the building itself and to think about the batteries in terms of that specific location.
I tell you it's a DOP issue, Trina.
Can I respond to that, Madam Chair?
Just
Chesler?
give me 1 second. I just want to let Madam Chair that Abe Luco, who works for Jennifer's office, is here, but he can't unmute himself. So I just want to let you know he is here, but he can't get on. Thank you.
From where?
For Jennifer's office, Abe Lugo.
Yeah, well, I didn't have him on the list. They didn't sign up to speak. That's why the name was called.
Okay, I'm just letting you know that he is there. He just texted me. Thank you.
We send out the notice and they tell us they want to speak and I get a list. I don't have that name on my list.
Okay, thank you.
Do they want to speak?
He can't unmute, so that's the problem.
But does he want to speak?
Yeah, call him. Yeah, he'd want to speak. Yeah.
Rena, did you finish with your statement?
Yeah. I mean, it was a suggestion. I don't know if other people want
Yeah,
it.
like I was saying, the fire department would probably tell you it's a DOB issue and they have to do the inspection.
Yeah, I'm planning to revisit the item at our next environmental meeting. So.
Well, that's a question Steve can ask them. Could they inspect the building?
Well, it's been a huge
Yes,
issue.
inspect it.
DOB basically signed off on the building's integrity, and the BSA basically put it to the applicants to show that the integrity of the building is intact. There's issues with the facade being, very problematic, and yeah, the age of the building and the foundation, et cetera. But the big takeaway for me was their lack of experience in extinguishing a lithium ion battery array of this scale. That was the thing that stood out for me. So I feel like at our committee meeting, I'd like to bring that up and maybe, follow up correspondence to the BSA about this. So,
Sounds
what
like
other-
they-
yeah.
sounds like the experience in that area is limited.
Excuse me,
Mhm.
Madam Chair, Steve, you bringing it to the full, board as far as voting? I mean, it's an issue of voting if they're putting an amendment or whatever they're requesting, don't we have to vote on it, do we?
Well, yeah, I would bring it to the committee. We come up with a additional correspondence or communication with the BSA and or the fire department, and then come to the full board to be approved.
So the
And
full
so-
board rejects, are they gonna go over our
Well, the
heads?
board
I mean,
already-
what happens?
The two committees and the board already rejected the application, as Dell alluded to. So, but the BSA is still considering the application. It's gone through revisions. They revised the design. And so the tenants came to the board asking for us to act on it. And so we invited we wrote to FDNY, we invited them to the board, which they addressed tonight. And so I think there's opportunity for us to still submit comments to the BSA as they're still considering the application based on what we heard tonight. So, the answer is yes.
Anybody
we can
got
still
any
respond.
questions they want Steve to ask at his committee? Anybody got any questions they want Steve to ask at his committee meeting? Please send them to him. Joanna, is Lugo on? Jennifer's office?
Yes, he's on.
Okay, his
Would you like
mic
me-
is open?
Yes, it's open now.
Hi there. Can you
Go
all hear
ahead,
me?
Lugo. In the future, you have to sign up to speak.
Yes, thank you so much. My apologies. It completely slipped my mind. So thank you for yielding the floor. Hello, good night, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Just wanted to give a really quick update and report from Jennifer's office. So very first thing that I wanted to address was already brought up, but just wanted to reiterate that Berry Street meeting on that North Brooklyn Open Streets Public Design Workshop. If you want the information, I have the flyer. I can send it over. I would love to. It'll be on Tuesday, January 31st from 4 to 7 at the community building at Bushwick Inlet Park. Moreover, we did want to report on a issue that we had going on Metropolitan Avenue, so you all are aware. There is a current DEP investigation underway on Metropolitan Ave. And the ongoing MTA construction. As last month, multiple businesses experienced flooding. We were able to go out on site and connect with some of them, and DEP has thankfully done a full vacuum clean up of the sewage system, in which their crews cleaned 500 feet of city sewer, removing some small amounts of grease and debris. So the sewer should be clean and running with no issues, but if for any reason it does come up with a constituent or anybody brings up that it does happen again or they're experiencing flooding, please, I'm happy to extend my contact, but please encourage everybody to log these occurrences on 311 so DEP knows where there is a clog so they can send an investigation team over. Moreover, we have an East Williamsburg Town Hall in the works that will take place on March 6th. From 6 to 8 p.m. at the Swinging 60s Senior Center, and we'll have a focus on environmental justice. I'm currently creating the flyer, and I will be sending that over to CB1 shortly so you all have it and can distribute freely. And also, we are having a Cooper Park community meeting. Given the ongoing problems that have disrupted the community in Cooper Park, Councilmember Gutierrez is working with St. Nick's and Emily Gallagher's office to host another Cooper Park community meeting, and which will take place on January 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. at 2 Kingsland Avenue. We'll be able to have a follow-up discussion around community health and public safety in the Cooper Park area. So please feel free to come out. This flyer will also be shared directly to you all. Two last things. There is a tech jobs fair that will be happening. Given the council member is the chair of the tech committee, our office in partnership with New York State DOL and EDC will be hosting a tech jobs fair late February tentatively on the week of February 20th. I'm confirming the location, time, and date, and we'll be providing that shortly as soon as everything is solidified. But I will happily keep everybody updated, of course. And finally, we are finally in the process of finalizing the fire emergency response guide and a corresponding subpage to the council members' website, where folks in our district that do experience a fire, they'll have everything that they need, whether it be resources, forms, or just simply information to alleviate the struggle of juggling what comes after a fire incident. If you all have any questions, please feel free. You have my email or contact me directly, and I will happily answer them. Thank you so much. I yield the floor.
Thank you so much, Abe. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I had my hand up. It's Giovanni D'Amato.
Go ahead, Giovanni.
It's there. No, I just wanted to know if there's an update on the search for district manager. That's all.
No
'Cause I know
update.
you guys got resumes. Just letting you can let the board know what's going on.
There's no updates. We still trying. We got it advertised 2 places. We still haven't acquired any funds to advertise it further.
Madam Chair,
Any other
you
questions?
got blurred off. What was there was you're still waiting on the funds for the to put it in the ad. What was the response?
Yeah, we're still waiting for Mark to approve the funds.
Okay, you got that, guys?
Yeah, but is it automatically post to the city job portal?
That's the one. Well, I don't know about that. This is the portal that we're trying to get, the portal that they gave us, which we have to pay for. And we haven't acquired the funds to get it yet. But we have it on the website. Greenpoint, St. Nick's put it in their paper, and Greenpoint has put it in their paper. As everybody knows, Steve sent it out to everybody. So we are advertising for free wherever we can.
But no
there a
applications have been submitted yet?
Pardon me?
No applications have yet been received?
We have some applications.
Is there a particular time frame that you collect them, or is there a critical mass of applications you're waiting for? What's the criteria?
Well, we didn't put a time frame on it. That's one of the things we regret. We didn't put a time frame on it. It's when the applications had to be in. So Simon's talking about having a meeting. I need to have one soon so we can start the interview process with the applications we already got.
And at what point is the full board going to have an opportunity to see who applied?
The steering committee and the executive board have to do the interviews. And when they choose somebody, they come to the full board for a full vote, according to the bylaws, from my understanding. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, it's Corey Canton. Is it on LinkedIn? Because I looked for it, but I didn't find it.
I can't hear you, Corey. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Is the job posting on LinkedIn?
No.
I had if you recall, I had an idea that perhaps all board members could share it. And since we're all LinkedIn members, it makes it easier through that platform. I don't know how effective it is, but I know that we're all, a large group of I think, chatty people that might, be able to expand the search by posting it.
That would be great. Anybody want to post it on their social media, or they know another outlet, I don't have a problem with it unless the rest of the steering committee has a problem with it. Any objections, steering committee, those of you that's here? Well, I hear crickets.
Madam Chair, I think did the search committee share the resumes that did come in?
Pardon me?
Maybe perhaps they can share, the search committee can share with the full board the resumes that came in so they can ease their mind.
Well, we didn't go over them yet, and the committee has to go over them. They have to they have to decide. We got to do interviews. You have
No,
to make a
I know, I
recommendation to the
understand
full
that, but I
board.
think for the sake of filling them in so nobody will feel left out, even though they haven't really chosen from the pool, let them know what's coming and perhaps do something with a massive email for the full board so they can see what comes in.
Well, that's something that the committee has to decide on.
Okay, so I'll just make a suggestion, I guess.
Decision.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, just referring back to the city's job portal, if somehow it could be posted there, I mean, that would be free. And,
Ask them for who they post with, and this is who they gave us, and this is who we've been trying to get money for us to pay for the advertisement. Only
okay.
gave us one.
Well, in the meantime, lots of
This has been a real hardship on this committee. It's been a real hardship, and it's been a lot of work. So, anybody have any other questions? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Julia Foster.
Thank you, Julie. Good night, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Good night.
Good
night.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Happy New Year and good night.